2025. The statutory 7-day stay therefore remains in force until 1st December 2025. During this period, the High Court's ruling cannot form the basis for the Speaker to instruct the clerk to notify the Electoral Commission that the Pandai seat is vacant.
He further directed the member to participate in proceedings.
It's therefore premature to say that the Honorable Matthew Nyindam is disqualified from entering and participating in the proceedings of the House, because this period still falls within the 7 days mandatory stay of execution of the order. Honorable members, this is not a declaratory order. It is an executive order that was delivered by the High Court.
Well, so earlier in the week, the Speaker of Parliament gave the Member of Parliament for the Pandai constituency, Matthew Nyindam, a lifeline. But then to what end? Well, this is a conversation that we'll touch on, especially because of how the coming week will look like. It's been quite clear the path that the Speaker expects this particular matter to take, despite the positions taken by both sides, with some pronouncements that you have some legal practitioners describing as a possible contempt of court. We'll see how the coming days will look like on this matter. But this morning here on Key Point, we're also live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. The diversity in our senior high schools especially is a conversation that keeps coming up every now and then in different forms. We've had issues with whether or not it's acceptable for young girls to wear hijab, that's Muslim young girls to wear hijab in senior high schools. Not all of them. There's been specific instances with specific senior high schools. The latest is what happened in the Wesley Girls Senior High School, that a Ghanaian national and a Muslim, for that matter, decided to test the law and ask a question of law of the Supreme Court. And the Attorney General provided a response. This week has gotten us talking again, which has stoked a national conversation about what should be the way forward dealing with this matter. We would have a progressive conversation that seeks some level of understanding and then also consideration of this matter from both sides going forward, bearing in mind that this matter is in court. So we're guided. We'll have a conversation this morning about diversity in our schools. And also here on Key Point this morning, there's been some conflicting figures about how much this entire SML deal was supposed to cost the nation. Manasseh Azira-Awuni, who did an investigative piece, extensive one on this matter, that led to all what was uncovered in this SML deal, holds a view about how much he was able to uncover, taking into consideration publicly verifiable data and documents from the Public Procurement Authority and others. The special prosecutor this week responded to him with a figure of some 2.7 billion. We've been asking questions of exactly what the source of that particular figure is, and also whether or not the special prosecutor could have put Ken Ofori-Atta on a stop list, and whether that stop list would have made any difference at all. Well, it's a conversation that we would sink our teeth into. this morning, especially because of the question of accountability and exactly what the special prosecutor is doing in this regard. We'll have a conversation here on Key Point. And also, we're taking into consideration this week, the budget debate has been wrapped up in Parliament. COVID-19 is finally, there's a COVID-19 levy, is off our books. That one city is off our books. And then we also have the extensive reforms into the VAT that has led to the effective VAT rate being reduced from 21.9 to 20%, also approved by Parliament this past week. Now, that would have an impact on our revenue as a country. But the Finance Minister, Dr. Kwasi Ato-Forson, is quite clear in his mind how the next fiscal year 2026 will be. There are some concerns that some financial analysts have. Joe Jackson is going to be joining me. We'll have a conversation. Dr. Theo Acheampong will also be joining me. He's a technical advisor at the Finance Ministry, but also he is a financial risk analyst and a political risk analyst and an economist as well. He's going to be joining us. We'll have a conversation. And as we go on, we'll have Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, also Adam Senanu, the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and Dr. Joshua Zato would also be joining us this morning. Solomon Owusu would be joining us as well. He's a director of communications of the UP Plus party. He'll be joining us this morning here on Key Point. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. My guests trickling in, they take their seats right after this quick break. We'll start the conversation right now after this break with the poll tracker. Stay with us. This is Key Point. Welcome.
Mr. Speaker, I move that motion number 7 be taken now. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Motion move. Any seconder?
Yes, I second the motion.
Honourable members, it is for your consideration. Honourable members, I'll put a question. The question is as many as are in favor of the motion numbered 7 for the third reading of COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy Repeal Bill 2025, say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
An act to repeal the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy Act 2021 at 1068 and to provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy Repeal Bill 2025 is duly read the third time and passed.
So that effectively puts the COVID-19 levy to death. It's not going to be on our books again. Well, but then again, it spells a particular conversation which we're going to get into right now here on The Key Point. Welcome to the Poll Tracker. This is a segment, if you're new to it, we rely on publicly verifiable data to track a particular process that tells a story, either politically or matters of the economy, the environment, anything that is of concern to you that is reflected in data, we capture it on the Poll Tracker. This week, the COVID-19 levy was buried. Well, my guest says for good. We'll be finding out exactly why this is the case, especially because if you look at least the budget that was presented a little over 2 weeks ago by Dr. Kasiel Ato-Forsyth, one of the surest revenue lines for the country was the COVID-19 levy. And it was good reason, because it was imposed as an indirect tax. You go and buy anything, you pay for it. You go to the supermarket to purchase a few things, you pay for it. What this effectively means is that with what has happened this week, that levy is going to be off our books. When would you not see COVID-19 on your receipt if you go and buy one item from a supermarket or any other shop that charges VAT? That is what I'll be finding out from my guest this morning, because after this event in Parliament, a number of you started sending me messages that on that day you went to buy something, you still saw COVID-19 levy on your receipt is being charged. So what next? We'll have a conversation this morning. But then, this budget has a total expenditure of over 302 billion Ghana cedis. There's actually an astronomical increase in terms of the real values of expenditure over and above what we saw in the fiscal year 2025. The Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiel Ato-Forsyth, was on this show 2 weeks ago. He justified why this much has been projected to be spent as against the revenues that we're expecting. So already, as we have seen, this is not peculiar to this budget alone, there is that shortfall in the expectation of revenue that will lead to a deficit of some 34.4 billion that government will have to find ways to make up for, because every expenditure that is captured in here in the budget has a value, monetary value attached to it. That's what the calculation has led to this. And then we're not going to be able to raise that much to be able to make up for it. So we'll have to find ways to raise this deficit. Now, that is where the concern is, because then every tax or levy that has been abolished in this fiscal year is taking away something in terms of revenue, money from our national kitty, the consolidated fund, or revenue that could have accrued to the state for other developmental efforts. The COVID-19 levy that has been abolished, apart from that, the Finance Minister did indicate that this is taking away some 3.7 billion Ghana cedis from our books and into the pockets of Ghanaians. That's how we put it. 3.7 billion. That could have come to the national kitty, is going back into our pockets. the effective VAT rate that has been cut from 21.9% to 20% also takes away revenue. VAT on mineral prospecting has been abolished. That was also another revenue stream. And then the Get Fund and NHI input tax that has also been taken off our books. Then you see why this is a big conversation. Right from the introduction of the COVID-19 levy, after COVID-19, and the justification was that we needed the money to fight COVID and then also to resource the health sector. Because after COVID, the justification for this levy being on our books was that we needed revenue to be able to improve the health sector in terms of investment, and then also the kind of health infrastructure that we have in this country. That was the justification for it still being on our books, even after COVID had left us. Now it is off, but there was consistent rise in the amount of money that COVID-19 levy was bringing to us, because it was a sure revenue stream. You can't go wrong with it. Right from 2021 up until this year, that is going to be off our books. It's been rising from 2.1 billion, give us 2.7 billion in 2024, thereabout, a little over 3 billion in 2025. And it was projected, as you heard the finance minister, this is what is coming back to us, 3.7 billion. The VAT reforms that have been reduced from 21.9 to 20% is also leading to this much as well in terms of the change in revenue that we're going to lose as a state. But the finance minister says it's a good boost for businesses to be able to also ramp up and have the cost of production reduced. But at what cost? And is there a good balance for it? The finance minister is very clear in his mind that the revenue measures that have been put in place will be able to make up for this loss. But Joe Jackson is a financial analyst and the CEO of Delex Finance. Is joining us in the studio. Dr. Theo Champong is a technical advisor at the finance ministry, joining us on Zoom. He is also a political risk analyst and also an economist. We would have Dr. Joshua Zato, Solomon Owusu, they're taking their seats shortly, and also Martin Kpebu, who is also just getting in right now, will be joining us as well in a minute to have this conversation. Mr. Jackson, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be here.
You're clear in your mind. You still stay that position that COVID-19 had no business still being on our books. It being off was a worthy decision.
Listen, COVID-19, the name says COVID what? 19.
Levy.
Yes. Right? And COVID is now a memory in an important memory, but it's a memory. A levy called COVID-19, mopping up, 2% of all our revenue, has no business being on their tax books. Listen, throw it away. Get rid of it. I'm really pleased that they've gotten rid of it. It was one of the taxes that I would say last year, it was a nuisance tax.
COVID-19 levy was a nuisance tax.
Yes.
But you would not contest the fact that it was one of the surest revenue lines that we had. It never failed. It was always bringing in even more than we projected, isn't it?
Yes, but think about it. Let's be clear how we are collecting taxes. COVID-19 was an indiscriminate tax. It didn't care who you were, how much you earned, it will hit you. We're better off, and maybe we're veering into a slightly different area, but we're better off making taxes progressive, so that the more you earn, right, the more you should pay. COVID-19 was 1%. It didn't care what you earned. Whatever you're doing, you're buying credit, COVID-19 is there. You go to the hospital, COVID-19 is there. You buy food, COVID-19 is there. It was everywhere. And so, I dare say it hit the disadvantaged of our society harder than it hit the well-off in our society.
Really? So it was a regressive tax
Yes.
measure. But this evidence is uncontestable, isn't it?
No, there are two different issues. Was it an effective way of collecting money? Yes. But was it a fair way of collecting money? That's a completely different argument. Effective, yes. In fact, the credit is that I can imagine in that room in the Ministry of Finance where they're trying to balance the books and somebody is saying, take away COVID-19. And somebody else is saying, are you for real? 2%? Wouldn't that create a hole? So obviously there is a debate, and part of the debate is what we're having now. The truth of the matter is that effective, yes. Important, yes. Fair, no.
Effective, yes. Important, yes. Fair, no. Was not fair
And you
based
see,
on its impact.
Let me give you another side of this whole argument. You see, when you take 100 cedis from private sector, from business, and give it to the government, it is important because the government has to pay certain bills. But yet at the same time, you're taking 100 cedis from what, all things being equal, is an efficient way of managing money and giving it to a thoroughly inefficient way of managing money. So you see, when for me, the biggest effect of this tax is not even so much the 1% that has been taken off and the little that if you bought a fridge for 1,000 cedis, you may see 100 cedis reduction. It is the fact that 3.7 billion is being returned to the private sector in this country to use in a more efficient way. And that will what will deliver growth. In fact, if you ask me, we are not going to see much of a price reduction. Remember that those who are selling, they have three choices. They can keep the whole 1% and put it in their pocket. They can give you part of the 1% back, or they can fully pass the 1% back.
Yes.
Even if they fully pass it back, like I said, if you bought 1,000 cedis fridge, you get what?
Yeah. Something back.
No, you get 10 cedis back.
Yes.
Not give me 100 cedis, 10 cedis back. So that's not the argument. But in this country, where private sector continuously remains the most efficient way of allocating our resources, of using our money, they have returned 3.7 billion to the private sector. And that will make a difference. In Delex, it will make a difference to my bills. And if we talk about the private sector being a more efficient way of spending money, then it's better than that money going back to the government. So that boost that the Minister of Finance talked about, that boost to the economy is real.
I see. So yes. You say COVID-19 RIP for good.
Oh. Parliament has passed it. It's gone. The fact that you didn't see it on your...
That's the next question. Because a number of our viewers, when we advertise it, say, you know what? When Parliament took this decision on that day, when and they say it was COVID-19 repealed, they still had it on their receipts when they went to buy items the day after.
But listen...
What should be the process? Or what will be the process going forward?
Assuming I am whatever institution, right? You have an issue. Somebody has to go into the software that generates the invoices, that generates the receipts, and go and change it to say COVID-19, 0. And it's not just COVID-19, it's even the way the tax is applied. So that change could take anywhere from a week to maybe even in some instances 2 weeks. So listen, we're clear. If you still see it, it's work in progress. I actually should think that in the next week or two, all remnants of this tax should go away. They should be.
And you listen, are blowing it away.
I'm blowing it away. And I'm receiving the 3.75 billion on behalf of the private sector, saying we will use it in a better way.
Let me acknowledge the presence of Martin Kpebu, his private legal practitioner. Counsel, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Kanse. Thank you. It's good to be here once again. Ghana's #1 talk show, right?
Indeed.
Yes, leading and popping the charts. Yes, because the people of Ghana see that this is where we address their concerns, right? Yes, from high cost of living to all the various freedoms. Yes, we should speak and speak in a manner that drives our democracy forward. Yes, so without much ado, once again, let me do the other rituals. We want to thank once again Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo for standing up when Akufo-Addo's governance was bad. And so by doing this, we are trying to encourage more Ghanaians to be objective. Objectivity. Don't say because this is your relation, who is this minister, the president, the director of this institution, etc. That means you can't talk. No. It's not about you and your family alone. It's about the collective, okay? Right. The same goes for Domahini, Osiadeyo, Ajumabedu. Domahini, more fire. We haven't heard from you in a while. That Togbe Afede. Yeah, Togbe also spoke. Togbe even returned the certain allowances. So you see, he empathized with the high cost of living, right? And said, look, let me return the certain allowances. I don't think I need them. That's on the Council of State, etc. And then also, Gamanche Kentucky Teku through the second, the man leading the charges for the return of the Cecilia Dapama money. Okay. Gamanche Mingabue, trying a bit of my gun. All right, so the story of 52.5 billion. Fortunately, on Monday, we met the Deputy Auditor General, yes. Frimpong something, yes, at the Lifestyle Audit Symposium. And I told him that now I'll be pestering him all over to make sure that we get that report, because we deserve to know where that money went. Because, you know, we can't just lose 52.5 billion, which is way in excess of what we borrowed from the IMF. Okay, so men above 40, please keep checking your prostate health. Yesterday night I was just watching, you know, even former Prime Minister of UK, Cameron. Yes, yesterday they did a news story where it showed that he has just checked, so they've detected his early. Yes. Can you imagine the Prime Minister?
In the UK, they're also dealing with a situation where the number of tests that have been detected as having errors. So some persons who are negative are rather testing positive for prostate, and others who are positive are testing negative. Excellent. So they have to suspend the process. So it's an issue which we will get. It's a big one.
So Ghanaian men, yes, let's continue using the old one and see how. And so they are trying to roll out a new test.
True.
Yeah, new test. Good. And then also I've just seen a new story. Maybe I'm new to it. I've seen 40 new armored vehicles to the Ghana Police Service to help fight crime.
It's an issue we'll get into, so you can stay the steam on that one.
Thank you very much.
Let me acknowledge the presence of Dr. Joshua. If I get the middle name wrong, it's Jebuntie Zato.
Jebuntie Zato. Very close.
Dr. Joshua Jebuntie Zato.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alfred.
Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Yeah, this morning, something quickly. This morning, today we are printing out the latest Dr. Zato in academia.
Oh,
my nephew is graduating from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Wonderful. With a PhD. So we now have Dr. Solomon Gbene Zato, my brother, big brother. We have Dr. Joshua Jebuntie Zato in the middle, and then we have Dr. Paul Alhassan Zato. So it's the Dr. Zato Trinity. We are storming academia like nobody's business.
Wonderful.
The Gillingham clan, the Balgana house, and Yefaja, and all are proud of you, Paul Alhassan Zato. Today, go make us. I should have been there, but you know, I can only do this.
For God and country. So you have a brother called Solomon.
Yes, I have Solomon Gbene Zato. He's my big brother.
Senior brother.
Yes,
I see. So that's why you.
This Solomon is always trouble. He's mischief. He's mischief. He's always mischief here.
Now
mischief,
I understand why. Solomon Owusu is joining us as well. He is the Director of Communications for the UP Plus Party. Thank you. At least now you have an understanding
No, I mean,
of where
he has established that I'm the senior in here. If your senior brother is Solomon and you come here and you want to look down on me, it's a problem.
You see the mischief.
So it is settled. The matter is settled. It's settled.
Indeed. Welcome,
Thank
gentlemen.
Thank you, Alfred.
Dr. Theo Champong is on Zoom right now, joining us. Dr. Champong, if you can put your video on for me, that'll be good. And thank you for joining us here on Key Point. Dr. Theo Champong, appreciate you. But you heard Joe Jackson clearly indicating why COVID-19, although the COVID-19 levy, although it was a sure source of revenue for us, there was no business it still remaining on our books because it was a regressive tax measure, even though it was bringing in revenue. But then does the revenue, or do the revenue measures that the finance minister has talked about give you the answer to we plugging the revenue that we're going to be losing as a result of the repeal of the COVID-19 levy? I'll start off with you. Solo?
Yes, thank you very much, Alfred. I think as a country, we must understand that revenue, if you are targeting revenue, it means you must be targeting expansion of an economy or business, promotion of business. Many a times, what our policies seek to do is to be targeting how much government is gaining from taxes, but rather not how we can improve the environment for which businesses will thrive. I mean, Alfred, if taxes are low in any country, what it does is that it promotes business. And every government in this country, indirectly, governments have 25% shares in all companies. Because at the end of the year, if a company does well, the government goes for what we call corporate tax. And so from that corporate tax, you can be making up for these COVID taxes that you are imposing on businesses. But if you tax the people more, now products coming from companies or businesses become expensive. Now what businesses are having high overhead costs, overruns, it translates into their products. And then the products also become very expensive, reducing demand for such products. And ultimately, these businesses collapse. And that is why many a time you find few companies being the ones paying taxes to government and reducing tax revenue. So I'm always for low taxes. COVID-19, as the name suggests, before COVID struck us, there was nothing like COVID-19, and we were surviving. I did not witness or see that impact this taxation brought onto us. And so once we declared the country as a COVID-free zone, that COVID was no more, there was no business whatsoever that this tax will continue to be in our tax books.
Well, the justification for it being on our tax books still was that we needed revenue for investment in our health sector to improve on health infrastructure. That's why even after COVID left us effectively, or the pandemic was over, we still had it on our books.
I mean, exposés from the Public Accounts Committee, corruption issues that we are discussing, the billions that have been left off the hook, suggest to me that the always rationale we put behind some of these taxes are needless. The money is there. What we have been doing is that we have been taxing the citizens to cover the corruption that we are engaged in. 81 billion from 2020 to 2024 per your own data, according to the Auditor General Department, has been monies lost through corruption. How much did we get from COVID-19 levy? 10 point what? Is it not 10.2 billion?
Yes.
So how then do you justify you losing 81 billion in the space of 4 years to the 10.2 billion? What you then have to do is to seal the loopholes or tighten areas that leads to corruption. Because if we are able to even have corruption, then we are making about a savings of about 40 billion. We will not need the COVID-19 levy. If we were able to deal with the issues at the national service, 2.4 billion, why would you need the COVID-19 levy? So it is the corruption that is the bane and not the more taxes we impose on the citizenry. And it's the more reason why you have a huge unemployment rate. If you are stifling the private sector, mind you, the private sector is the engine of growth. Any tax you impose puts more restrictions on them. if you stifle them, they will not be able to expand, to take in more people. And that is the reason why the youth are not getting jobs to do. So I am for the scrapping of this COVID-19 levy. Rather, we must focus on dealing with issues of corruption and make sure that the little that we mobilize by way of taxes, we utilize it effectively. Not just corruption, but also even the choice of projects that we do, the costing of it. I've said that I don't understand why, if government wants to engage a contractor in any project, they advertise for people to tender. After the tender process, what prevents any government from posting the results of the tender? So that we know that government said that it was going to buy a flat screen. You understand?
Yes.
And then after at the end of the tender, the person that won said it can provide it to us at the cost of, say, 1 cedi. Then we know whether indeed in the open market it is costing us 1 cedi. Because many a time government is involved in any project, and it has been shown by activities of benevolent institution and corporate world, MTN and so, that whereas they are constructing 6 classroom blocks at, say, 100,000, government alone goes in and it costs us 2 million cedis. How do we break this disparity? Is it because it's government that is costing that much? But if you begin to publish outcomes of tenders, I tell you that some of these corruption in terms of procurement will go down, and we will make savings, and we will not have to tax the people that more.
COVID-19 levy was a regressive tax. That's the analysis that Mr. Jackson put out there, although it was a sure revenue measure. Dr. Zato?
Thank you very much. I'm not surprised that Joe Jackson is against it. Joe Jackson is one of the biggest players in Ghana's version of the Wall Street, and they never liked high taxes. So they just don't. It just comes with the environment. So they would never like high taxes. So no matter what, in fact, they will not. If they have their way, they will not even pay taxes. So we've seen. No. I'm saying philosophically, ideologically, that is how it is. Most of the big players in Wall Street and in Ghana, it's high street. No, it's high street, right? The equivalent should be high street in Ghana. They don't like high tax. So I can understand that from that philosophical ideological position. But 3.7 billion, I wouldn't have thrown it away. Especially considering that the government in power, they are social democrats. The government has some very, very big projects that they want to execute. Take Big Push. This money could have done amazing with the Big Push. I wouldn't have thrown it away. 2, take right now, apart from the amount of money you need to complete all the projects in the Big Push, you also have a serious problem of farmers all over the country. The Minister of Agri said that he released 100 million cedis to buy food stock, and it finished in 3 days. It finished in 3 days because there's so much to buy. The president gave a directive for all schools and others to buy this. So I would have, again, put this money into that to make sure that the farm, you know, but today there's a lot of cereal, maize, rice, beans, all over the markets, even in Tachima market, in all over the place, in Tumu market, in Chala market, in all the places. The farmers cannot sell, and the price, in fact, it's about 300 cedis. The price is so low, they cannot sell, and even they don't even have people to buy. I would have given some of this money to buffer stock, and I would say mop up, because the 100 million was not enough. The 200 million they are bringing will not be enough. I would have done that, given it to buy, so that these farmers can reinvest it. It creates jobs directly. You were talking about jobs directly. A lot of the youth in where I come from, the Sala West, have farms. If you see a teacher, he has about 2-3 acres. You see a nurse, he has about 3 acres. All of them have farms. And that is another employment source of income. So I would have also put this money to that. I wouldn't push away.
But at what cost?
Let me phrase this for you.
Has its own impact.
There's something called the Ghana Integrated Iron Steel Development Corporation. It is cash stuff. They didn't get enough money in the budget. Look, they have found, what is the name? Iron ore found in Sisala East, Ote region, Western region, Northern region, other places. Imagine you had committed a lot of this money into that. Most of the people that are now doing Galamsey could have found other places to go and work. You'll be creating jobs, you'll be getting iron ore, and you can then increase the value chain of the iron ore to get it done. So my point is that there are so many other things you could do with this amount of money instead of just putting it. So give more money to the Ghana Integrated Iron Steel Development Corporation, put more money into the Big Push, put more money into free HSS, because again, social democrats are tax and spend politicians. They should tax and spend to expand the economy and to so free. That is what I would have done, because the question you are asking is, and you asked some very genuine question. If we let this money go, there's always this economic theory that a rising waves tide lifts all boats. That is what it said. That if you the economic idea is that if you lose taxes, businesses will with lower taxes, they will invest in the economy, and then when the businesses do well, it will lift everybody. We said it doesn't happen like that. They get the tax breaks and they use it to buy back shares. They used to do other things. They don't invest. So there is that. In fact, that theory, that economic principle of a rising wave lifting all boats, has also been challenged. It's always something that is favored by the political right, liberal conservatives, and then so for me, I'm surprised that Social Democrats are letting this amount of money go, considering the big projects they want to do. 24-hour economy, Women Development Bank, the big push project, shoring up the free HSS. I wouldn't have done that. Maybe I would have reduced the rate to bring it on, but I wouldn't put this money away.
Okay, well, Dr. Teo Champong is a technical advisor at the Finance Ministry. He's a political risk analyst. Dr. Teo Champong, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Alfred. I hope you can hear me, and my apologies, I'm not on video because
that's perfect.
I'm not that great.
I acknowledge that. That's okay. But you heard Dr. Joshua Zato there, and with all the reasons espoused, is there enough justification for the COVID-19 not have been off our books? He's looking at how much is taking away from our revenue basket, and also the projects that have been outlined to be executed by this administration in the next fiscal year. Is that a justification enough?
No, I don't think so, because look, math, and it's not just revenue. Look, the people of this country have suffered enough, especially the last couple of years. When you look at the cost of living crisis, the financial crisis that we went through, the debt restructuring, and all manner of other things that have happened to people in the country. And when you introduced a measure, so-called COVID-19 levy, and you don't have the pandemic around anymore, it's quite difficult to justify that. I get the point that he's saying that, this money could have been used for other things. But the fundamental premise of the tax or the levy was to help address issues or the health-related aspects of the pandemic. Look, when you come to taxation, there are four, call it core principles or canons. Anybody who studied tax law or tax economics will tell you. Taxes have got to be, one, efficient. They've got to be, number two, equitable, number three, transparent, and then number four, they've got to be easy to administer. When you look at our overall tax structure when it comes to VAT, we had a combination of straight levies, and then we have and then the VAT element in it. And what that did was to create a lot of distortions, within the system. So it had become more or less inefficient. It had become inequitable. It was not transparent. You could argue that, on the fourth point of administration, maybe relatively easy to administer. But remember that you are competing also against your peers within the sub-region. You want to be able to attract investment. At the same time, you want to help your citizens and households and businesses that have gone through a very, very torrid and difficult time as a result of the pandemic and cost of living issues. So when you are looking at a region, the African and the West African region, where the average VAT rate is around 18%, and Ghana's VAT is close to 21.9%, that is a strong disincentive for investment. And then at the same time, you are punishing households. So really the policy decision was to try and rationalize this tax base, to make it a bit more efficient, to make it equitable, to make it transparent, and then to, of course, make it very easy, to administer. So when you then go into the mechanics or the details, what really is being done here is to try and scrap the tax, put the money directly into the pockets of citizens, put the money directly into the pocket of businesses, so they can, better plan and use that to do other things. The argument about government losing revenue is neither here nor there, because at the end of the day, you want to support businesses, you want to support households, and there's nothing better about doing that than pushing the money directly into their pocket while you broaden the tax base, and allows you to also sort of compete, right? And the beauty of this again arrangement is not even just the COVID-19 levy. If you read the budget very carefully, there's also a proposal, right, to increase the registration threshold for VAT from 200,000 to 750,000.
Yes.
For a very long time, these thresholds had been kept very low and had not been adjusted in line with inflation. In other words, in real terms, when you look at those thresholds, they were very, very small, and many businesses were being forced into becoming eligible for tax when they should not, and the cost of compliance goes up, right, for them. So when you increase this threshold, you would broaden it, you improve the means of raising, you broaden it, and you allow, the businesses some of the exemptions that are given, and overall you improve, the ease of, administration. Again, there's also the decoupling, of the GET fund and then NHI levies as well, from the overall tax base. So what this again allows you to do is that anytime you go and buy something, if you are a businessman or a businesswoman, you can claim the input that tax, on that amount from the output tax that has been paid. And this, for me, is a much fairer and better way of going about things, because hitherto, your GET fund, your NHI levels were not part of what you can claim as part of the input-output system. So overall, when you actually work out the mechanics, what you see is that you might be losing a little bit of revenue, which for me should not even be an argument, but rather you are pushing money into, the real people within the economy. And that helps to ease some of the cost of living pressures and also improves your competitiveness, as a country, given also the fact that there are comprehensive reforms that are also taking place on the tax front. So again, it's not just VAT. There is the Income Tax Act, the Customs Act, the Excise Duty Act. All of these things in the coming year are all going to be further reformed to again promote equity. You want to ensure competitiveness, and then you want to allow that enhanced revenue generation. So really, when you look at the totality of the tax policy reforms that are proposed within the budget, it is not just a question of losing revenue per se, but you are actually broadening the base and you are pushing money into the businesses and into the households.
I see. So you're sure
as for the VAT, the element of that COVID-19 bit in there, those things were all highly regressive, and it was an inefficient way of collecting revenue.
I see. So you're sure that all these revenue measures, the policies and interventions, the reforms we're seeing will be enough, all things being equal, to make up for the loss and even rake in more revenue in the next fiscal year?
So if you look at the budget and you look at the fiscal term framework, so there's a table 14, that gives you an indication of the next 3 years, 2026 to 2029, the medium-term fiscal framework. And if you look at what the proposal is to raise revenue, total revenue and grants is actually 16.8% of GDP, and then the expenditure side is 18.9%. If you do an analysis of the data and you go back the last 5, even 10 years, consistently, when your revenues, for example, dip in a particular quarter over the course of the year, we've always had to make a corresponding adjustment on the expenditure side. That's one thing. Number two, if you look at the revenue as a share of GDP, which I've just mentioned, the proposals in the 26 budget are not radically different from what you have in the 25 budget. So in the 25 budget, you're looking at around 16% of GDP. In the 26 budget, you're looking at going up to 16.8%, right, of GDP. And then over the medium term, that stabilizes around 17% of GDP, which is where we ought to be, and it can even go further up. So the different measures that have been proposed to sustain revenue, the tax compliance efforts that have been going to be pushed through, the reform efforts that is also going to go through, cross-border transactions, digital platforms, the introduction of the electronic fiscal devices. So basically, these are sales registers and billing machines would all go a long way to ensure that the revenue base is met. And actually, interestingly, when you look at the data and the evidence base from these electronic fiscal devices, right, from Ethiopia, from Tanzania, from Zambia, all the evidence is actually quite clear that when you bring in these electronic sales registers and POS and other billing machines, right, one, they actually increase the reported sales, and number two, importantly, the tax payment also goes up. That's one. Right. Number two, the tax base does not even appear to be negatively affected, right? So that's some of the concerns that people often have. But the evidence within Africa and many other jurisdictions actually shows a very strong positive relationship between the amount of tax that you're collecting through these electronic devices and total tax revenue collection. So again, to state the point, it's a comprehensive set of reforms that are being pushed through, and it should not have that much of an impact on your revenue. Importantly, you are pushing money to people within the real sector of the economy. That's really is the important point.
I see. People, you hear the technical advisor at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Teo Champon. The tax, yes, any tax measure must be effective and easy to collect. Look at COVID-19 levy. Joe Jackson's verdict is that it was a regressive tax. There's no reason for it still being on our books. And also the consideration that Dr. Zato brings in about how much is taken off our books. Well, Dr. Teo Champon says there's enough in place in terms of policies to make up for it. But then again, justification for it being off our books, good measure?
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me add this. So far, I haven't heard that, and then we'll come to the real economics aspect. You know, this is a tax policy that President Mahama pledged to abolish when he takes office. So as part of the campaign, for the 2024 election, he pledged. And also, if you check the 120-day social contract, it's in there that he will abolish it within the first 100 days, right? Yes. I will scrap. So watch, CTFM has this, citynewsroom.com, 24th August 2024 has this. I will scrap e-levy, COVID levy, other taxes within 100 days in office attributed to President Mahama. That's 24th August 2024. Then you have other stories. So that one, we can't deny it. Look, different portals all carrying the story that the president had promised to abolish it, right? So, you know, in politics, of course, there's economic justification, but we are just reminding ourselves, okay, this political
because
aspect.
it became a political issue as well.
Yes, a U-turn can be very costly, very, very costly. You know, in the UK, like this, one example, Keir Starmer and Richard Reeves, they are suffering because of U-turns, some U-turns they've made, and, you know, voters are, deserting them. to the extent that even now reform looks very attractive. They said today, if they were to hold elections, reform would win, would beat Labour and the Conservatives hands down, etc. And you see Ghana too, we are very savvy people. The 2024 election showed that we are very, very savvy. The only part we are yet to improve on is that's what we are savvy when it comes to elections, voting. The part we are yet to improve on massively is in between the elections, getting up to demonstrate, getting up to shout, show the anger. We don't tend to show too much of it. If you look at how we stomached Akufo-Addo's misgovernance, etc., then it tells you that, look, we need to do a lot more in terms of showing that anger. There is a huge deficit because if we were a bit aggressive, we could have stopped Akufo-Addo. As a nation, we could have. But because most Ghanaians are, laid back, oh, my wife and kids, every time my wife and kids. Hey, and even if you came here to talk, then they say, hey, these people are wicked, they will kill you. They fear. Maybe let's give another 2 election cycles. We hope that will change. Because historically, at the symposium we did on Monday, the lifestyle audit, Dr. Agbe came to say that, yes, even research during Kwame Nkrumah's time showed that Ghanaians have always been laid back. We are timid people. We need to get rid of that timidity because when you don't, yes. So that's a bit of history comes into this. So what we're saying is that, look, this is an electoral promise that the president couldn't have done anything about. He said even at one point within 100 days, then another point they said within 120 days. But what time are we now even getting rid of it? This is what? November. So it's gone into what? About 10 to 11 months into office, you say. So in a way, it's not even been done according to plan. But it's better late than never. So now let's come to the other aspect, the economics, after the politics. And sometimes a budget is a political statement too. Look, if you read well, they will tell you that a budget is more of politics than even economics. So that's to say that you make sure that the economics speak to the politics. The economics cannot just hang in the air. Because if you did that, you lose your people. You would lose your people if your budget doesn't talk politics. It doesn't come in a manner to help alleviate the cost of living, etc. That this Dr. Tuya Champon is mentioned. Because that's a key thing. Last year, by this time, we're railing. Cost of living is high. Cost of living is high. So how else would we help to alleviate the cost of living than by scraping very regressive taxes? So when we say regressive, maybe for the younger ones who don't understand, what we mean is that the tax is said that everybody will pay the same, a percentage, irrespective of whether you earn 1,000 Ghana cedis a month or you earn 100,000 Ghana. So that's what we mean by it's regressive. So you see that if you earn 1,000 Ghana cedis a month and you are paying the COVID levy, in terms of percentages, you pay a lot more than the man who earns 100,000 cedis a month. So that's a regressive element. And knowing that this is a population where we have at least 10% living below the poverty line, you see that when we talk about regression, it's a serious matter. Right. So now looking into the budget, the reason, and you see, we will not make that mistake. The government that is seized with all the facts, knowing how much they expect to raise, we are going to raise about 224 billion in taxes. It means that it has done its homework, done all the calculations, and sees that even with this, scraping the COVID levy, we are scheduled or we are projected to raise 224 billion in taxes. And Mr. Usu made the point earlier. If we use what we collect judiciously, it will go very far. But if you collect a lot of money and it's not used judiciously and corruption takes a huge chunk of it, etc., then you neither went nor you came, like we like to say. So I support Mr. Owusu's statement too that it's about using the little that you have, all right? Yes, and you look at non-tax revenue for next year, we're going to raise 27 billion, other tax revenue 14 billion. Then grants, you see how our economy is changed now. Grants will bring us, 3 billion, right? Now, I think the time we were in school, those days, the budget used to show a lot of the grants rather supporting the budget. Yes, that was the structure of it. If you ask, I went to business school, my first degree in School of Admin. Yes, I remember the professor, is it Kofi Sapta? I forgot his name. He would come and the budget analysis. What kind of budget is it that you need a lot of foreign donors, development partners to prop the budget? But I see over 20 years on, we are making a huge progress where grants, etc., have reduced markedly rather than those days. Me looking at the budget and the fact that there is a huge drive to raise more revenue and that there will be growth in ICT, right? Growth in ICT, growth in the finance sector, growth in agriculture. I believe they've done enough modeling. So for the government to say, look, this must go, they mean what they really mean. And that's why they are walking that talk. Because if they knew that it will not work at all, then they would come and then apologize and say that, oh, can we rename it? But to the extent that they say it should go, it tells you that, yes, this is a tax that must go. Yes, somebody's reminded me, one of the professors, Kufinti, then there was the one who used to teach microeconomics and that. Yeah, he was a deputy manager for OmniBasic and that. Yes, okay. So just going forward, looking at it, I believe that the government will not score an own goal. Reading the budget and how we propose to raise taxes, if they couldn't have done it, they wouldn't have scraped it. And this is Dr. Zato. If you check, the internet doesn't forget. Your own Dr. Bawumia is said to be one of the persons who would have scraped the COVID levy. That's what is there. Google it. Bawumia himself promised. So today, I don't know how Zato is arguing. I'm not arguing against your own Bawumia.
The man is a man of his own mind.
Hook, line, and sinker. Lock, stock, and barrel. You never would depart from what Bawumia says. So today, it's
gradually running away from Bawumia.
And this is coming from a neutral. This is coming from a neutral. You are supposed to be a neutral. You are taking shots at me. Let me make this point. No. I agree. Hey, listen, I'm saying this.
Your position is
I am capable of sitting here and saying that I can articulate an idea that is completely independent from this. I told you, politically, ideologically, and philosophically, I am center, right, liberal, conservative. Okay. So I should be the one articulating for lower taxes by my ideology facing. But I've told you that I am also what? Principle, and I'm understanding. I've told you things.
You're a man of your own mind.
I've just said that's what I'm saying. So ideologically and philosophically, I should be for lower taxes, deregulation, smaller government. That is what I should be espousing. But I'm saying that our democracy can also and ought to also be what? Empirical. That also means that I've seen government struggling. Look, this is regressive. The D-levy, is it regressive or not? The D-levy, the 1 cedi tax on fuel. Is it regressive?
Yes.
So,
and exactly,
and I've made the same point. So, what is the principle then? Are you against regressive taxes? Then why do you bring D-levy? The same thing they did. The first budget came out, say you remove this, then Nicodemusly and in the night through whatever, you push through D-levy. So I'm saying that this thing, you've done it now because of, and I'm happy you said it, a budget is a moral document. A budget is a political document. So you made a political promise, you do it. But I'm saying you watch. You will see that one hot middle of the night, another tax will be passed through Parliament through an emergency, because that was what happened.
That will depend on, we have to be vigilant. In
yes, I said that. So yes, you will see me espouse ideas and opinions that are different from, because again, I have and I'm capable of doing that, and I will always do that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so wrap up also. As I said, there's a high cost of living. It's not as if it totally disappeared. Yes, this year the bumper harvest has helped to ameliorate it a bit, but we still meet people and they're still crying that the cost of living is so high, cost of living is so high, cost of living is so high. So this is a good measure to help bring down the cost of living, because everywhere governments seek to what? Reduce the cost of living, because that's what Article 36 of our Constitution requires of our government. Article 36 of the Constitution says that government must what? Manage the economy in such a way that we have better welfare for all of us, create jobs, etc. So for me, as I've said, once the government has all the facts and is better informed than us, I shudder to think that they would just want to score an own goal, remove a tax that they cannot afford to. You remember, and I even remember, earlier in the year, yes, people were saying no, it should be removed far earlier. Yes. Then they said no, they needed a bit of time to adjust. Yes, I think earlier in the year, because people kept saying that no, it must go immediately. It must go immediately. And then the government said no, they needed a bit of time to
during the media budget.
Yes, exactly. So this is the time. This is the time. So let's do it, because a government that doesn't protect its citizens, a government that doesn't care for its citizens would not make it past would not make it past the next election at all. No, it won't make it. Because citizens will say, you haven't ameliorated our suffering.
It's all about the cost of living.
Excellent.
It's all about the economy.
Excellent.
It will be about the economy in 2028.
Mr. Okansi,
that's no doubt.
Before I just land, somebody just sent me a text. They said today is the president's birthday.
We'll do that when we are ending. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you see, you had raised concerns that in as much as, yes, it is regressive, there's really not much impact this would have on our revenue streams, taking into consideration all the analysis and then also what Dr. Tue Champon had pointed out. But you had concerns about whether or not the revenue measures would accrue as much as has been projected. And it's all predicated on the Ghana Revenue Authority's own efficiency in being able to collect at least domestic revenue, isn't it?
Yes. First of all, let's be clear. We're talking about what? 3.7 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That would work out roughly to about 115 cedis per Ghanaian. Give or take maybe 450 to 500 cedis per household. Whereas that won't change lives, it is not also to be discounted. But the real challenge is this. We've got very aggressive revenue collection targets to keep our budget deficit at the level at which we want to. Because remember, once again, there's a huge difference between how much we want to spend and how much we want to bring in. The challenge is that if we don't make sure we meet those revenue targets, then we would run into problems. Then, unfortunately, you may see the COVID-19 levy resurface under a different name, under a different label. But the important thing is that we should make sure that the aggressive revenue targets we've set are upheld. And so the most important agency in this whole thing, right, in making sure that the removal of the COVID-19 has the full effect is going to be GRA.
Ghana Revenue Authority.
Yes. The Ghana Revenue Authority says, I will expand the tax base. The Ghana Revenue Authority says, I will make sure I collect. It should make sure it meets those commitments. Let's make sure that those who are at the helm of affairs at the GRA are held responsible. The KPIs are put in front of them all the time, reviewed all the time, so that we won't come back months from now to come and say, there's no revenue, there's no... Because you see, the amount there is significant. 2%. 3.7 billion. How much did even oil
1%?
Royalties bring us?
You mean the COVID levy?
The COVID levy 1%. The COVID levy 1% was a significant. It was a short banker. 2%. One levy, one seemingly innocuous line item brings 2%, and it is as high. It even challenges how much we got in oil royalties. So if that hole is going to be created, if that hole is not going to be structural, then GRA must perform. Then the other measures must happen. So we're saying we're happy to take the 3.7 billion being handed back to Ghana. We're happy for households to take home to get a relief of anything up to 400, 450 cedis, even 500 cedis per household. But let's make sure that those that are responsible for bridging that hole do their work. Let's hold them responsible. Let's not take it for granted. And it's the same thing. If you were running your business and you had a sales team and you had some aggressive targets for the sales team, you won't let the sales team go to sleep whilst you are spending money. You will say, sales team, I've put a budget together. The budget says I will spend so much. Make sure you bring in the revenue required. In this case, we're saying, whilst we want to scrap nuisance, levies, and taxes, let's make sure we also block nuisance leakages so that we won't come back months from now and come and sit here with a long face talking about a new tax with a new label.
The leakages including corruption, isn't it?
Definitely. One of the major leakages is corruption. One of the major leakages is smuggling. Another major leakage is the tax freebies we give to other companies and never give to Ghanaian companies. All those leakages must be watched, must be kept, and GRA must expand the tax net.
And finally, Dr. Tio Champong, I'll give you the final word on this because a lot of the expectations on the Ghana Revenue Authority, they've announced some ambitious, interventions and projections going into the year, tax education, and then that would lead to the tax expansion. Because as for the expansion of the tax net, I've been hearing this since I was born. We've been expanding the tax net for only God knows how long. It never happens. So what is going to be done differently?
No. I mean, look, you're right, and Uncle Joe is right. A lot of work has to be done by GRA and the other state agencies to ensure that the revenues do come in and indeed come in. But what also gives me assurance and comfort is that if you go and look at the data, again, historically, and you look at specifically even the 2025, data, the fiscal data, just for the half year, and this data is publicly available on the Ministry of Finance's website, so anybody can cross-check. But in the 2025 budget, the expectation was that we're going to do 224 billion Ghana in terms of taxes. So that's roughly 16%, of GDP. And then if you look at the breakdown of that in terms of the half year, projection. So as of half year, we were expecting to have done 121 billion, and then the provisional numbers is around 115 billion. So that's 8.2% of GDP. So the point is that as of half year, you had 8.2% of GDP. We're almost getting to the end year point now. If you did another half of that, you're going to meet your revenue target that you set within the 2025 budget for 25. And you could do a similar analysis going all the way back the last few years, and you would see that consistently we've been closer to meeting the revenue targets. And so for sure, I think, yes, a lot more needs and must be done from the part of GRA on the various measures that are being implemented, some of which I have mentioned, and also importantly, the tax reforms that need to complement this, the income tax reform, the customs reforms, the excise duty reforms, all those things that would help promote equity, competitiveness, and kind of improve compliance across the board. All those things, would and must be done. But the point is that we need to be able to raise and finance our own development activities, while at the same time supporting individuals and supporting households. So yes, the tax measures may look aggressive within the budget, but from what I have seen and some of the historical data analysis I've done, is actually not really out of gear or out of shape in terms of where we need and must get to as a country, even compared to some of our peers. The revenue base as a share of GDP definitely has to to go up to around the 17%, 18% over the medium term.
Thank you. Dr. Theo Champong, thank you very much for joining us. He is a technical advisor at the Finance Ministry and also a political risk analyst. He's an economist as well. Dr. Theo Champong, appreciate your time. And you're also live here on Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. We're on the Voice of London radio in the heart of the city of London and Voice of London television on a number of radio stations across the country as well. Now, do you suspect you didn't get the right amount of fuel when you go to the pumps to buy fuel? Do you have issues about the quality of fuel you buy? Or did you experience bad customer service at the filling station or the fuel station? Don't stress. The National Petroleum Authority is here to assist you. Reach out to them, call them on their call center number 0302 550 380, 0302 550 380, or feel free to walk into their head office located at Jowolu off the N1 highway or any of the regional offices to make a complaint or inquiry. That is, if you detect that you've been shortchanged at the fuel station or the fuel they gave you is a bad one. Now, if you experience any of these issues at the filling station, you have up to 48 hours to report it. National Petroleum Authority, where customer care meets excellence. Well, talking about expectations, this week there's been a lot about whether or not the SML deal, how much it cost the state and how much a special prosecutor says it has saved. They put some figure of $2.7 billion that it says it has saved the state. That's what the special prosecutor's office put out this week. This was in response to a post that Manasseh Azure-Awuni, investigative journalist, made. In fact, there were now questions about exactly where this $2.7 billion is coming from, the source of that money or that amount. And then also we're asking questions about whether or not the special prosecutor could have put Ken Ofori-Atta on the stop list. That's one of the issues that Manasseh Azure-Awuni, who is joining us right now, also put out earlier in the week. That leads us to our next conversation. But let's establish the basis for this conversation with that conversation that the special prosecutor, Kessie Jabeng, had with Kwaku Sintim-Mensah a couple of weeks ago, stating a number of things. In fact, it's almost a month, stating a number of things regarding how Ken Ofori-Atta got out of the jurisdiction and what he couldn't have done because of the circumstances at play at the time. Take a look.
We didn't watch him leave. We were powerless. That is the truth. We were powerless. We saw him leave, but we couldn't prevent him from leaving at the airport. We didn't watch him leave. We were powerless. That is the truth. We were powerless. We saw him leave, but we couldn't prevent him from leaving at the airport. We didn't watch him leave. We were powerless. That is the truth. We were powerless. We saw him leave, but we couldn't prevent him from leaving at the airport. We didn't watch him leave. We were powerless. That is the truth. We were powerless. We saw him leave, but we couldn't prevent him from leaving at the airport. We didn't watch him leave. We were powerless. That is the truth. We were powerless. We saw him leave, but we couldn't prevent him from leaving at the airport.
On TV3, we're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Manasseh Azure-Awuni is investigative journalist. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Manasseh, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Manasseh. If you can unmute for me, I don't know what's going on. All right.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Alfred.
Perfect. Now, you put out a post asking a number of questions of the special prosecutor earlier in the week. And this was a direct response to you from the Director of Strategy, Research and Communications of the Special Prosecutor's Office, Sami Darko Esquire. He says, Chief Manasseh, stop pretending you understand the work of the OSP better than the OSP itself. That the facts you have put out regarding when they left the country, and you're talking about Ken Ofori-Atta and one other in this SML deal. The fact you put out about when they left the country only confirmed what the OSP has consistently stated. They traveled while Nana Addo was president, and it would have been pointless to attempt stopping Ken Ofori-Atta when the presidency had already granted him clearance to travel based on medical grounds. Says it was pointless. The special prosecutor never said he wrote to the security chiefs at the time to stop him. He said it was pointless because his cousin, the president, had already cleared him to travel. And he had also written to the incoming chief of staff stating that anytime he was needed, they should invite him and he would return. So there was an assurance from Ken Ofori-Atta that anytime he is needed, he will return. As to whether there was good reason to rely on this assurance is one conversation we would have. He says, in any case, the heads of institutions at the time had refused to cooperate with the OSP on several occasions. Your argument about the travel stop list is immaterial, and this matter involves an extradition process, which is fundamentally different from the routine stop list that you talk about. That's the first issue I want to deal with you. Manasseh says you had questioned why the OSP, whether he could have put Ken Ofori-Atta on a stop list or not. Well, the response to you is that is immaterial. There are two different things you're talking about here. Questioning your understanding of what the process is. Does this response answer the question you put out in this post earlier in the week, Manasseh, specifically asking questions of the OSP?
No, it doesn't put or give the right or satisfactory answers to the point I made. Mm-hmm. And what I put out was not an opinion, largely facts I gathered. I started having issues with the approach of the OSP when I listened to that interview with KSM. And if you listen to the larger piece, he made this point over and over again about the president being the cousin of Ofori-Atta, and at a point even told KSM, the president is his cousin was the president, and I hope you understand the insinuation. Mm-hmm. The point that I got, or listeners will get from that interview, was that the OSP appeared ready to act, but the persons and the institutions that were to support or help the OSP did not. So I decided to ask the security chiefs at the time, and also highly placed sources within the Immigration Service. And the question is, did you receive any request to stop Ken Ofori-Atta? And then you said no. Because we watched him leave, but we're helpless. Nobody was prepared to help and all of that. And they said, no, we didn't get any such request. Then I went back to some of the people in those positions in high authority at Immigration, National Security, BNI, and started asking my sources within that even as we stand, do we have any such request coming from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to stop Ken Ofori-Atta or Ernest Akori? Mind you, if Ken Ofori-Atta was the the cousin of President Akufo-Addo, there was another man who also has been declared wanted in connection with the SML investigation, but has not been, but he left the country too. So I decided to go and then do the digging, and at the end of the day, he too was not stopped. And so the information I had from the current security chiefs is that both Ken Ofori-Atta and Ernest Akori are even not on the stop list as we speak. And I said, what does that mean? And according to them, if someone is not on the stop list, you can go out of your way to stop them from traveling. So if Ernest Akori is entering Ghana through the Togo border or even the Kotoka International Airport, nobody would stop him or arrest him because you don't have that instruction. And it is because the OSP has not triggered that. So I went to the special prosecutor, Mr. Ajabe, and then asked this question about first, whether or not his outfit asked for help from the past security agencies, the National Intelligence Bureau, the National Security, and the Ghana Immigration Service. And he said no. And I said, well, you said they are not, or they were not helpful, or they were not cooperating with you. And he said, yes, they were not. And he was sure that even if he had sought their help, they would not have stopped Ken Ofori-Atta. So that didn't, that's why he didn't make any attempt. Then two, on the current one, he explained like Sameh Darko is reiterating that it is immaterial and that they have their systems at the airport that should any or either of the two get into the country, that person may be picked up before they even reach the immigration. So it isn't necessary to trigger that stop order. And my sources within the security agency say that when a stop order is triggered, they don't only look at the airport, they circulate the details of the person across the sea and land borders of the country. So that if the person knows that they are coming through Kotoka and would have a problem, they may go through a Lubo or Aplau or Kulungungu, and the security agencies will pick them up. So this is the response that has been given. And I think the most important or some revelation they also gave there is the fact that when these people were leaving, the Ernest Akori, they didn't even know at the time that he was a person of a person of interest or a suspect. They didn't know. So I got some details about when Ernest Akori left the country, and that the details are that he left Ghana on November 19th, 2024, and then he traveled to New York on Delta Airlines flight 156, and he went out through Terminal 3. And I also found out that Ernest Darko Akori, who has been declared wanted together with Ken Ofori-Atta, is a holder of a US passport. And then his passport will expire on August 4, 2031. I also discovered that Ken Ofori-Atta traveled on a Ghanaian passport, but he has 3 valid visas to the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States. And then Ken Ofori-Atta's US visa will expire on February 14, 2026. On Valentine's Day 2026, his visa to the US will expire, Ken Ofori-Atta. And then his visa to the UK will also expire on April 21, 2032. And then finally, his Canadian visa will expire on May 31, 2031. And this is Ken Ofori-Atta. So he left the country on January 4, 2025, and he went through the Terminal 3 like Ernest Akori on the United Airlines flight 997 to Washington, D.C. Now, Ernest Akori left in November, Ken Ofori-Atta left in January. The OSP has confirmed that at the time Ernest Akori was leaving, the office did not know that he was a person of interest. And this is almost a year after the OSP received the petition to investigate this matter. And if you watch our documentary or read our reports, you will see Ernest Akori signing a letter on behalf of Ken Ofori-Atta, and you would see Ken Ofori-Atta being described in that documentary as the person behind the huge consolidated contract. His letters and everything is in there. And that brings us to the question as to why this important office for close to a year did not know that Ernest Akori was a person of interest in that investigation.
Earlier release did indicate that it is as a result of their own investigation that uncovered Ken Ofori-Atta as the key architect or the mastermind behind this SML deal, and not your documentary.
Well, Alfred, I don't think we may need to spend so much time debating who uncovered what. The truth of the matter is this: the documentary we produced is online. It is on YouTube. The 3 billion cedis lie. And then there are online text stories we did. And if you look at the images that went with this documentary and even the online story, even without reading the story, you will see Ken Ofori-Atta featuring in every one of them. In the documentary and also in the online stories we did, you will find the letter authored by Ken Ofori-Atta as the one instructing that the contract should be expanded to the upstream and minerals sectors. And that is the chunk of the contract. So I don't know where this attempt by the Office of the Special Prosecutor to belittle the work that resulted in the whole SML investigation by state authorities and KPMG and everything. I don't know whether I can just tell, but these are just facts online.
Okay.
Nobody may, if anybody doubts me, they should just go online. Look at the reports we did. Look at the documentary produced. This documentary was played and reproduced on many platforms, and Ken Ofori-Atta features prominently. So I don't know where this claim is coming from. And this is a similar claim about some 2-point-something billion dollars they claim.
We'll get into that. But I'll acknowledge the presence of Edem Senanu. Edem Senanu is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, but also is the chair of the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption. He was successfully elected for the second term a couple of months back. Mr. Senanu, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Perfect. Also have Hamza Soin. He's a private legal practitioner, a member of the NDC. Hamza Soin, good morning.
Good morning, my brother Alfred. And thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Now, if you look at the response that the special prosecutor gave to these concerns that Manasseh put out, and looking at the full details of what Manasseh has indicated, quite interesting. And the visas, the active visas of Ken Ofori-Atta and then Ernest Akori, and when they are going to expire and all of that, he has all of that detail. But then the special prosecutor says this matter involves an extradition process. It is a different process from the routine stop list mechanism, and that he got it wrong. But he's provided some detail. Does it check the box for you? on this matter, especially because of what the special prosecutor himself has been explaining, why not much could have been done to stop Ken Ofori-Atta from leaving the jurisdiction?
Not at all, Mr. Okasi.
In 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes, okay. You know that I also fact-checked the special prosecutor. So I checked with the former people formerly in charge of NIB, and they said, one of them even said he doesn't even know Kisi Ejabin. That's to say that Kisi Ejabin never contacted him to help arrest Ofori-Atta. Then I checked with the current heads, that's the institution, NIB. They've written formally to me that, and I'll read a portion. The National Intelligence Bureau did not receive such a request from the office of the special prosecutor.
Well, the special prosecutor said they didn't write to them. That's the response.
No,
so I just read.
Yeah, so he's now shifting the goalposts. You can hear him in the tape with his 32 teeth that NIB didn't cooperate, National Security didn't cooperate, etc. So it's too late. Sami Darko is trying to rationalize everything. He knows that his fortunes hang on Kisi Ejabin's fortune. Once Kisi Ejabin is going, Sami Darko has to go. You see? So he's making every effort to rationalize this barefaced lie. We've caught him. Look, we've caught him. The head of our anti-corruption body cannot lie to Ghanaians and expect to go scot-free. He has to leave. Look, he's not the only lawyer. Look, even his deputy, Cynthia Lamte, is by far his senior at the bar. Kisi Ejabin is not the only lawyer in Ghana.
So you say you checked with what?
It's not as if we did any national test and Kisi Ejabin came tops. Kisi Ejabin got that office because of his closeness.
You say you checked with which institutions?
Oh, National Investigative Bureau, the NIB. This is a letter dated 27th November 2025. Look at it. It's whose signature I don't want, because it's an intelligence institution. I don't want to put out the letterhead.
You wrote to them asking what exactly?
Yes. With Dennis, your colleague here, Dennis Pabiri helped me to write the letter. Yes, I wrote formally, making inquiries. You want me to read my letter? No. I can read my letter, making inquiries that the special prosecutor come there for help to arrest Ofori-Atta. And he said, no, maybe I can read portions. Look, okay. He said, I write pursuant to Article 21, 1F of the Constitution 1992 and the Right to Information Act 2019, blah, 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 to request the following. 1. Whether the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, has at any point in time formally requested the assistance. So you see, I said requested, not just writing. Okay? Requested the assistance of the National Intelligence Bureau to arrest former Minister for Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, and then other questions asking for the details. And they responded, none. None. So look, we've caught Kisi Ejabin for this singular lie alone. I mean, we all make mistakes. When the heat started coming, if you had come back immediately to say, oh, look, my brothers and sisters, it's a slip, would have taken it. We all make mistakes. Look, I go to court, sometimes you quote a wrong law, the judge will correct you. Sometimes you go to the High Court, counsel is here. Maybe the High Court judge also gets it wrong. You go and appeal, it's corrected. Even the Supreme Court, they make mistakes. So please, don't make that mistake. I'm not pontificating as if I know everything and everything turns around me. No. If you thought that, look, what you said was an error, immediately come. But you see, he's digging himself in. It's terrible. The head of our anti-corruption agency cannot lie to citizens like this and keep that office.
Let's look at the other part of the response. I just want you to, because it says the matter of the stop list that Manasseh put out is in his view immaterial because it involved an extradition process, which is fundamentally different from the routine stop list mechanism.
No, listen. That's actually, Sami Darko cannot, it's not as if he's a super lawyer. We heard Kisi Ejabin, you played it. Kisi Ejabin said that when Ofori-Atta was about to travel, Ofori-Atta wrote a letter, correct? And that the letter was went to both the current chief of staff and the outgone chief of staff. Then he said he intercepted the letter, meaning he got a copy by whichever means, and sought to prevent Ofori-Atta from traveling, which presumably meant that he was going to arrest him. So there is no issue of any extradition. Sami Darko cannot obfuscate matters. It's too late in the day. Kissi Ejabin was not talking about extradition. It has nothing to do with extradition. He said he intercepted the letter, then went to NIB, didn't get help, National Security didn't get help, Immigration didn't get help. Can you imagine bastardizing state institutions? So you see how NIB has been quick to remove its mouth from this matter, because you can't have a special prosecutor just sit down and run down government institutions. And you think this is a small matter. You run down other government institutions without basis. So look, it has nothing to do with extradition. Kissi Ejabin was not talking about extradition. He said he intercepted the letter and then sought to prevent Ofori-Atta from traveling. That's why even further went on and said that Ofori-Atta's cousin, that's the president. I don't use the word cousin. In Twi, there's no word for cousin. It's brother. Okay, brother. Okay. So Ofori-Atta's brother is a Kufuor. And so what do we expect? The words are too clear. Look, we are not kids. We don't even need to be a lawyer to understand this. Kissi was just lying, barefaced lie.
Now there's been cooperation now from the various security agencies, as was the case previous, or as against the case previously. There's been improved cooperation now.
Yes.
That's also captured in the
That's
statement.
neither here nor there. We
Why is
don't
that?
need that. He has already lost the plot. We don't need that. For coming to lie and not responding immediately that, oh, I'm sorry, it's a slip. It means that it was deliberate, because he's digging himself in through the rationalization Sami Darko is doing. Look, it's good riddance, because anybody looking at following Ghanaian politics would have known that, you see, he who the gods want to kill, they will first make mad. If you want to tackle anybody, is it me? Maybe we are coming to tackle. You know that we will not let this matter die. So it's just God that made them blind, and then they said I should come and brought the matter back to the fore. And you see, this raises the other issue we raised earlier on today. This thing about the Ghanaian being timid, being docile. Look, it will hurt us too much. We don't have to wait till the next election. This is a matter that elsewhere, by now, we would have massed up in front of the office of the special prosecutor to say, look, he should leave that office immediately. This is even a matter that, properly speaking, it should attract a commission of inquiry under Article 278 of the Constitution. Well, your special prosecutor runs down the Immigration Service, runs down National Security, runs down the National Intelligence Bureau, and we think that is kosher. Such a man is not fit for the office.
Well,
is he the only lawyer? Did he write an exam? Did we write an exam so that he topped, and so that's how he got the office, and so we think that he's the most intelligent? No, it's because he's associated with a Kufuor's regime.
After this interview by the special prosecutor, and as Adam said on this, there's been further responses from the office. If I say further responses, at least what we've seen from the office within the week, giving some further and better particulars to the circumstances around the time. And one of it is what the question that Manasseh was asking, and then also what could have been done differently. Would the demand of coming to the public, updating the public about this earlier than now, have made any difference at all from what you say?
Not too clear on the question. The demand to come earlier on which issue?
On the challenges he was facing at the time when Ken Ofori-Atta was leaving the country, even though he was aware. If we gotten to know earlier than now, how much of a difference would that have made?
Well, thank you. Let me first put in context that I've been following the exchanges, and the more information I've had on both sides, I think that there is a communication gap.
There's a communication gap.
Yeah. I think that the lawyers are looking at the minimum threshold of what amounts to criminality and trying to make sure they get to a certain point before they say this is a case. And sometimes their feedback to Manasseh is couched in that kind of context. And I think these two groups probably need to sit down and have a discussion. For many of us, we are clear that the OSP should stay focused and deliver the mandate we gave to that office. My memory of the chronology tells me that it would not have made a difference, because you see, when Ken applied on health grounds, and prior to that, a number of us had been in the Ministry of Finance, where they were doing the projections on Ejapa, etc. And he participated in that meeting. I remember I was with Kofi Bentel and Franklin Kujo from Mayo Clinic. So we knew there was some health issue, but we were in the conference room of Ministry of Finance and this was going on. And so when these issues came up, many of us felt that the SP should to be more human, more responsive. Allow the man to go and do his health check. This is a Ghanaian at a very high level. He should come back and answer. That's accountability, that's leadership. So in my view, I don't think it would have made any difference. I think this is much ado about nothing, a storm in a teacup. I think let's focus on the important issues. We have a country to build. I don't see how, in fact, maybe you need to play that tape back to me. I don't see how that becomes the basis of asking for the removal of the special prosecutor. I probably need much more compelling evidence. So this is not an issue I want to belabor too much. Mm-hmm. I think that let's move on.
I see. But then, in the response of the special prosecutor, he did indicate that Kenneth Ofori-Atta gave an assurance that anytime he is needed, he would make himself available. That was the assurance he gave to the incoming chief of staff and the outgoing at the time of his departure, which you referenced the meeting, right, that you were privy to. But looking at the play of events, right from that day of the assurance till now, should there have been enough currency put on that assurance, especially because of the person and then also the circumstance around which he was living?
I think that we must we should take ourselves at face value. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be unfortunate if we began not to be able to say our leaders make a promise and we'll hold them to their promise. There may be extraneous factors that have led to where we find ourselves today. But if you choose to lead, you must be accountable. And that's the first thing all of us must understand. And if we are not grooming ourselves to understand that, then that's a shame. In other cultures, people don't even need to make a hue and cry for it to say, I resign, or I am going to face, accept on behalf of the company that I should be held accountable. And perhaps we are losing that or missing that in our society. I think that it was all right for them to expect that he will come back. I think that his family, his lawyers have a duty of care to all of us to make sure that he comes back. And I think that no Ghanaian should accept, political office if you're not willing to be accountable. That makes me very uncomfortable. So I don't begrudge the OSP or any of the other actors for saying that, okay, we let you go, especially in the context that this man had a health condition. It was not something that was fabricated, And so to that extent, I think that at this stage, Mr. Kenneth Ofori-Atta should be called upon. If he's finished his treatment, if he's in a better condition, we want to know about that. He should come back and answer the questions that he ought to be answering. And let's make sure that our governance systems work for this country.
Well, you see, Dr. Joseph Ato, this is coming at a time when a lot of questions are being asked of the special prosecutor because of the element of accountability. Because there's a number of cases at play right now that Kenneth Ofori-Atta will have to come and answer. Prime being the SMLD, which the special prosecutor himself has said that he is the chief architect of it, which is a subject of major investigation. Now, he stated that, well, and I knew he was leaving. I couldn't get the support of the security agencies. I have it now. We couldn't put him on a stop list because it's a routine and it is different from an extradition process. Is there any assurance of a physical appearance of Kenneth Ofori-Atta anytime soon?
I don't know. And I don't think it matters to me. And I honestly don't care about that particular one. My position on accountability and being held accountable for office is clear. I have advocated and I continue to advocate regime accountability and post-regime accountability. I have said that any man or woman who takes an oath to hold an office must know that a day will come, he or she will also have to raise the hand to take an oath to be held accountable for that. And I've said that if a sitting president is unable or unwilling to hold his or her own appointees to account, it is completely fair and okay for another regime to come in and hold them accountable. So long as their fundamental human rights, the things the lawyers talk about, right to counsel, presumption of innocence, so long as all that is held, I have no problem. I will never sit anywhere and try to make it look like, oh, this person should not be held accountable. No. Accountability is a cornerstone of democracy, and we must be seen, not only to be seen, we must actually make sure that people, powerful people, who occupy powerful positions are held to account for their actions or actions, whether in office or out of office. I have absolutely no problem with that. Two, when it comes to OSP, I've also advocated my problem. One, I've said that that office has to go. I said that that office has outlived its usefulness. And I've said that if you do a very common value for money audit or analysis of that office, and you look at how much money resources we put in that office, and then you want to say how much have we got for it as a nation, we have making a loss and we could make it a loss. And I've said that we should scrap that office completely, and the money that we were supposed to use to run that office, we should add it to the money for the big push. We should add it to the money for the 24-hour economy. We should use that money to help make the Tumu town roads. We should send some of that money to Tumu market, to Techima market, all the place, and give it to the buffer stock to buy the excess maize, the excess beans, the excess rice. Put some money in the pockets of people so that they can spend Christmas. There are better ways to spend that money than to keep spending it in that place. I've also said that. And I want to be clear, and I'm still mean that because that office has outlived its it's not there. Three, but there's something from a managerial position that you hear. It is something that the OSP office has been saying. Martin Amidu said it, and you are hearing it from the current occupant. This lack of cooperation with others. I don't know whether it is real or they are making it up, or they are manufacturing it. Either way, there seems to be a situation where both seem to be claiming they do not have cooperation. And I ask the question, why don't you have the cooperation? You see, cooperations like this are earned. It's not like respect. It's earned. It's not demanded. If you are the OSP and you need, for instance, the CID, that respect you need from the CID is not something that can just be... The law may just go as far as saying cooperate with the CID. But for you to be able to pick a phone, call somebody at the CID, and that person will put everything down and give you the file you want, it depends on the respect you're able to build with that person. If you are the OSP and you need cooperation with immigration, with NIB, with everybody, the people that do not owe you, if they can delay, maybe you want it ASAP, and they will say, it's not ready. But if you also have very good managerial and interpersonal relationship with them, you could call them today and they will suspend everything and make sure you get the file you want. So there seems to be something lacking in that office, especially if you have both the current and the former one all talking about the lack of cooperation from other state agencies. Either way, I am personally happy right now that these cases are before court. I am happy that right now these cases have gone to court. Let us go to court and try to get these monies back. Let's try to go to court and try to establish accountability. Let's go to court, because the court will then let us know whether these issues we are making, whether they are real or they're just pumped up. The court will let us know whether crimes were committed, and the courts will determine the consequences. If the courts rule and find people guilty, I think that from where I'm sitting, it's easier to say that, okay, Mr. A has been found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. This country extradite that person. I think that is a fast and easy way. So long as it is possible under the Guardian law, and I think, Martin, you said that, and I think for you to try somebody in absentia, let's go ahead and do that. For me too, I'm also praying that we do that now so that we don't get to a situation where when there's power changes and a new person comes, the issue is nolle prosequa, and then all these monies we are talking about are flushed down the drain. The cases is now before court. Let's go to court. Let's try these issues so that the talking is no, because I don't want us to, this is now turning into a shouting match. It is now turning into a talking game. It doesn't, no. The cases are in court. Let's go to court. Let's put the facts on the table. Let the people have the right to defend themselves. Let the state have the right to make its own case. At the end of the day, when people are found guilty, they should be punished appropriately. And at the end of the day, if they are not found guilty, their names should be restored and they can go ahead with their lives. I think that is where we've gotten to, and that is the position I want to take. Let the courts decide, let the fate of this people, which is now in the hands of the state and the court, be decided and let it go. And then we can also then ask ourselves, so far I've not seen that. If one company, SML, is accused to have done all these things, what are we doing as a country, as a nation, to make sure that we don't have another SML in the future? What are we doing? What laws are we protecting? What rules are we perfecting? What processes are we perfecting? What loopholes are we covering to make sure that we do not have a similar thing going in the future? Because as a country, as a developing country, and as an emerging economy, something tells me that smarter and intelligent people are going to sit down and they're going to come up with various ways of doing businesses. Are we doing enough to make sure that maybe 2 years down the line, 3 years down, 8 years down the line, we don't come back to another issue? Are we doing enough? The Internal Audit Agency, is it doing enough to make sure that we do not come back to a similar situation down the line? Ghana Audit Service, are they doing enough to make sure that we do not come here? Ministry of Finance and their other regulatory agencies, are they doing enough to make sure that down the line tomorrow we don't get up and hear that another company led by my brother here Mr. Sohede has also come up with something like this, or by another company led by Solo. Also, Solo, if you get, you go give me some make a chop, right? You have, so that one I would talk. But as a country, we have to be worried about these things because it's not going to stop. But now there are people sitting somewhere cooking figures, thinking about smart, intelligent business plans to come. My point is that the real rules, the guard rules, the people, the men and women who are supposed to be protecting the public purse, are we making sure that they are well trained, they are well protected, they are well paid, and they have the right tools to make sure that similar things don't happen in line? I wish we could all sit down here and say, Ghana, we will never see a similar thing like this. But we cannot all say it. So please, let's go back to that. Unless and until we do that, look, one of the things that we were talking about was these leakages in the financial sector. Have we done enough, and are we doing enough to protect? Because this may be a leakage, in this could have been a leakage in the finance sector. Have we done enough? Are we doing enough to make sure that similar ones don't happen? The CSRS will say that we shouldn't look at where we we failed, but we should look at where we hit our leg. Where did we hit our leg? Where did we go wrong? And what are we doing as a nation? Are we rising up to the occasion to make sure that we do this? If we do not do this, Alfred, I'm afraid we'll come back to this one day again, and they will ask us, what did we learn?
But you see, there's a question that you're asking, which I want to bring in Solomon also on this, whether or not it was indeed the case that the special prosecutor was actually truly facing any challenges in stopping Ken Ofori-Atta, or these are issues that the office makes up. That's a question that Dr. Zato asks. But to authenticate this, you've had a further layer of Martin Kpebu going to at least one of the many, is it not?
Yeah, I've got the three, so the other two are yet to respond.
Also, you've asked questions of the immigration, and then also national security. So which one responded to you?
This is National Intelligence Bureau.
NIB is what responded
former
to you.
BNI.
How do we authenticate that this was indeed the case, that there were really challenges that could not help him do what he was supposed to do?
Alfred, before I proceed, let us be clear here. This issue, people are trying to generalize it. When it's about Ken Ofori-Atta, so let's all think about corruption. It is Ken Ofori-Atta. Let's discuss it. And the OSP and his actions. And I wasn't too sure what my brother Adam was saying, that we should move on. This is a serious matter. In fact, if we are going to move on and leave Ken Ofori-Atta's case, then we must nobody must talk about corruption in this country. I'm telling you, because until this administration, this current government take the issue of Ken Ofori-Atta and take it seriously, nobody will take this government serious. Then the whole issue of ORA would have crumbled, and nobody in this country must waste our ears with corruption. Because we are talking about a man who led this country in terms of managing our past, led us to borrow $13.5 billion, led us to invest $97 million into a hole, led us into an SMA deal, and we are talking about what? Then there is no need in discussing corruption again. Ken Ofori-Atta somewhere during the erstwhile administration, 80 members of his own party went to Parliament and said that he has to be removed. Beyond that, ball joined. They cited incompetence and also held grounds. He told us that he was fit. He was ready to die for this country. He was ready to die for this country. And I don't even understand this business of people saying that he wrote to the old chief of staff and the incoming chief of staff. As of the 2nd of January, we had only one chief of staff in this country. Who was our incoming chief of staff?
So there was a transition process.
No. You see, unless until you have been given the power, as of the 2nd of January 2025, President Akufo-Addo was still in position. So there couldn't have been two chief of staffs. He wrote to his chief of staff, Femo Opare, and was granted. And the OSP did nothing. Absolutely nothing. This business of we sugarcoating that office, I'm even surprised he's still drawing salaries from the state.
What do you mean by
it's a total waste of everybody's time.
With all the achievements.
What have they achieved? What?
They put out a list of...
No, you see, the last time he came to tell us that he has flashed 10,000 ghost tips from
yes.
Hey, so OSP is supposed to prosecute. They don't even respect our intelligence.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
You have gotten 10,000 people as being ghosts. Did you hear him prosecute any one of them? Because these ghosts, they have bank accounts that every month the monies go into it, then they withdraw. Ghosts, do they withdraw monies? Is it not human beings? That should have been a starting point in investigating, assuring the nation that he was doing something. When they put up something there for all of us to just go up like that as mumu, we are not mumu in this country.
You said even with the SML, some 2.7 billion.
He has no. You see, you shouldn't even. When you do that, when you give credence. When you do that, you see that you belittle our intelligence. I've said that he has to leave the office. He has no business whatsoever. I keep telling you, the very day that he did that press, was it a press conference or so, that he said, "Ankwanoma, may they make a crab out for it." He should have resigned. Yeah. But what he was telling her was that he has lost faith in the system. He couldn't deal with the system anymore. So just leave. And then we move on. You understand? Ken Ofori-Atta came to tell us that through his lawyers that he was returning back to this country somewhere May. That position was affirmed by Fenyo Marcus. We were that sure. Are we not in November? When is he going to come? In fact, the very reason why he left this country must be the reason why we must bring him back. He said he was going for health checkup. Is that not the case? If you are a finance minister and you were in charge of my purse, instead of helping to invest our monies into building state-of-the-art health facilities so that you and I, ordinary Ghanaians, when we are sick, we could go there. You came to mess us up, and when you felt you were sick, you are going to Mayo, the most expensive hospital, one of the most expensive hospitals in the U.S. Come and explain to us how we ended up destroying our financial fiber. You say you won't come. Today, as we speak, they are shifting the goalposts. Ken Ofori-Atta is sitting somewhere, chilling. And we are discussing semantics, OSP versus Martin Kpebu, because Martin raised issues. And let me say that, look, if the OSP and his people are thinking that it's only Martin that is not happy with them, then they must be mistaken. They must be mistaken.
So whatever disagreements between Martin Kpebu and the OSP is only benefiting Ken Ofori-Atta.
That is it. That is, it's part of the strategy. They want us to forget about the real issue of the corruption. I am not interested in whatever English you write. All that I'm interested in is that Ken Ofori-Atta was given a mandate. And that our monies are not adding up. Come and explain to me. You are here writing English. And they want to play with our minds. We are very much focused on this matter, that he must be brought back. And I believe that this administration must also not be toying with us. Whatever it will take for them to go and bring him, they must do that. If the OSP is dilly-dally with the issue, they should just push him aside.
There's an extradition process in place. They say that the Attorney General is aiding in the process.
The last time, did you hear the Attorney General speak?
To get it done.
Bring them the file, it was even a matter.
They sorted out
so they should move. That's why I said the Attorney General must come in. I trust the Attorney General's office more than the OSP. The OSP will not take us anywhere.
The OSP has stated that the AG's office is doing what you are
saying. I want to hear from inconsistencies, a lot of them. He says that he discussed with other security agencies, yet they allowed him to go. Now it is turning out that was not the case. So how do you expect you to trust him? I want to listen to the Attorney General on this matter. And they must do this country that great service by telling us what exactly is happening. Because some of us want to see Ken Ofori-Atta in this country.
Want to see him in person.
In person, but he was the finance minister in person. He was not leading the finance ministry in absentia. He was not doing Zoom meeting with us when he was the finance minister. Come back and respond to us as a country.
Well, but he has been charged now. He's not in the country physically. He has been charged.
You see, there was a precedent that was set that in those days, I said that we were heading into abyss with the setting up Temako. When judgments are giving people run away and go and sit somewhere, that is what is going to happen. Now, Ken has also followed. He has issues to answer here. He's living somewhere. The next time, somebody will just come and see the entire monies of this country and go and live somewhere. Is that the way we want to build this country? So please, Ken Ofori-Attah's matter is as important as, in fact, it's the most important matter in the corruption issues. And until we deal with it constructively, you can dedicate the rest of the years discussing Ken Ofori-Attah. We will not move on if that matter is not sorted. And the OSP cannot shortchange anybody. And nobody should bring semantics and try and create the impression that it's a trivial matter. It's a serious matter. It's a serious matter because my tax was paid. As a business, even when you cannot pay, you are forced to pay. And when we give you all these things to manage it well, and it's time for you to come and account to us, you say what? SML, he must come and explain to us. But does it not even give you that impression? You see, it's a shame that a minister of finance has run away from the country. And people are thinking that...
You say he's not well.
No, he's very well. He's very well.
Medical
Have you ever seen him ever since he told that he was not well? We had a whole clinic called Mayo. If you don't know who was there issuing letters, we never spoke to anybody there. Fake letters they were bringing. I dare them to let the person that side speak.
Do you have evidence to support?
I don't have any evidence that it was also signed by the Mayo Clinic.
So then why do you say it's fake?
It is fake because nobody knows. We have faceless people issuing letters. Along the line, from the Mayo Clinic, we have some people calling themselves family members who issued a statement. At the end of the day, they just only signed family members. Who are the family members of Ken Ofori-Attah? A lot of things have happened in between. You can have about 1,000 members of a family. Who signed it? You want to know who signed it? Then they chickened out. Then the wife came in. Now look, the man was not well. What is this that we are? What is it about Ken Ofori-Attah that we cannot confront it? And that is where I agree with Martin. The timidity levels in this country, we have a lot of timorous souls. But if we are going to behave like this, we will continue to have politicians play with our minds. We will continue to have politicians steal from us. We will continue to have politicians think that the wealth of the nation belongs to them. And that whenever they come, they will do whatever pleases them. No, nobody is above the laws of this country. This is the country of our birth. The money that were given to any administration of Ken Ofori-Attah was not for him. It was for you and I. It was to be used to develop this country. If you have done something and say, come and answer, and you are telling us, at a point he said you could do Zoom meeting. Which help was you going to use to do the Zoom meeting? You were not well. Ask for Zoom meeting, then you can do it. You can set up a camera on yourself, sit behind the PC, and answer audibly all questions. Just fly to Ghana within 12 hours and come and do that. You can do that.
So, you see, I listened to Adam Senano. He says, you know what? I mean, he wants to confront the reality of the situation that at the time, the gentleman we're talking about wasn't well. And so whatever assurance he gave also had that particular medical situation underlying it, that, you know, when anytime you need me, I will come. Should we have put any currency on that, or some other measures should have been put in place to ensure that beyond that assurance, we will not be at this point?
Good morning to you once again and our cherished viewers, as well as my colleagues in the studio. You see, Alfred, first of all, I condemn any form of commentary that seeks to belittle the effect of what we are discussing, especially relating to the office of the special prosecutor and the occupant of that office. The Ken Ofori-Attah experience is but one of the many concerns that Ghanaians are beginning to raise when it comes to the functionality of that particular office and its relevance. And for me, this bit about Ken Ofori-Attah actually being sick, and so there shouldn't be any fuss about it, is quite strange, to say the least. Strange because we are talking about a man who had the opportunity by presidential appointment to be finance minister for close to 7.5 years. Within that period, we woke up one beautiful morning, in fact, one worrying morning, to the news that he was unwell in the US with visible signs of actual health conditions. The gentleman, like Solo indicated, even after his own party people demanded for his removal, still found time, flew back to this country, and continued his role as finance minister. Interestingly, even after he was let go, he stayed in this country throughout, only to decide to leave when a new government was about to take office. And we do not think that even the timing of his decision to leave Ghana raises serious questions for us to want to ask those questions on. And if people are asking those questions, we should give him the luxury of time to stay in the United States of America and decide when he wants to feel it is timely for him to come to Ghana to come and answer questions. Is that how we run a state? This is worrying. And this kind of logic is strange and unacceptable. You see, Alfred, when we are talking about the OSP, people may miss the point. One of the fundamental reasons we're told we needed out of this had to do with instilling credibility and integrity into our democratic space. And so when we wake up and we begin to have issues about that institution that was set up to pursue these objectives, and we begin to see that even within the internal workings of that institution, there are issues of credibility and integrity, we should be worried. First of all, I am not excited about the conduct of Kisi Agyebong, especially who I got the name right, as special prosecutor. And I will tell you why.
Why?
First of all, this is a gentleman who appears to raise issues of credibility and integrity more than any occupant of that office.
What do you mean?
Alfred, when the Deputy Attorney General engaged the press and indicated to us that that office had written to the Chief of Staff demanding extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta, and they decided to engage, they were meant to furnish his office with the full docket of the Ken Ofori-Atta case to enable them process the extradition processes. We were told that, look, the Office of Special Prosecutor decided to drag his feet. They were not cooperating. That was the word. But because he was Deputy Attorney General, he had to be diplomatic in his choice, unlike the Special Prosecutor who is accusing all state institutions of not cooperating with him. He said they couldn't engage to get the docket out. The gentleman informed all of us that they were almost done and in the process of giving the docket to the Attorney General. And the simple question we needed to ask then was that, so what informed the basis of the letter that was written to the Chief of Staff to seek the intervention of the government to support the extradition processes if you were not done with the documentation that would inform that extradition? What were you doing? That is the first question. And when we were on it, political as he is, that was the time we started asking issues of accountability relating to that office. He threw us a bone. He proceeded to address a press conference and make public the SML report, if you remember, seeking to deflect attention. And we bought into that bid as a republic. So he walked away freely. Quite recently, when Senior Counsel Martin Kpebu began putting the spotlight on their internal operations, and Ghanaians followed that trail by beginning to ask questions, what did he do? Characteristic of that particular office, he proceeded once again to release a press statement indicating that he had filed charges against Ken Ofori-Atta intended to deflect the spotlight of accountability in his office.
He had filed charges, had he not?
Oh, but you should be looking at the timing of many of these things. And you should understand that we are dealing with a politician. We are dealing with a politician who privileges strategy.
And 6 others.
We are dealing with a politician who privileges strategy over the core mandate of his office. And that is critical. And so these are issues of integrity. Can you trust such a person? Absolutely no. Alfred, third point, Manasseh Azura-Wini and his colleagues have been fantastic as far as the issue of the SML is concerned. They are raising issues about the failure of the special prosecutor to have issued a stop notice. And what is his defense? Oh, he is the president's cousin, and the president had granted him permission to travel. Are you kidding me? You have been set up by the laws of this country. You are given special powers to operate. Even if President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had granted permission for Ken Ofori-Atta to travel, nothing stopped you, as special prosecutor, from indicating to the president in an official correspondence that he is a subject of interest when it comes to ongoing investigations that you are conducting, and for which reason the president should be minded to withdraw his grant of permission to travel. Did he do that?
Said National Security even cleared him to travel.
It doesn't matter. But the question I'm asking is that if you feel that they should not have cleared him, did you write to these offices to indicate to either President Nana Akufo-Addo or National Security that this gentleman is a subject of interest in an ongoing investigation? And so, Your Excellency, the decision to grant him permission to travel, you shouldn't have. To the extent that you did, there was no such correspondence to the office. We will not just join you because as a country we have issues with the Akufo-Addo governance to conclude that President Akufo-Addo granted the permission for him to travel so that he could run away. And so we should blame President Akufo-Addo. What did you do as an independent special prosecutor to prevent or to prompt the office of the president that gentleman ought not to have been granted permission and the permission should be revoked?
So are you discounting the element of the relationship between Ken Ofori-Atta and the president?
I am not discounting it.
And the fact
I am not discounting it. And you see, and that is how we lose the essence of the critical questions surrounding the operations of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. It will be in his interest for us to be concentrating on the relationship between President Nana Addo and Ken Ofori-Atta, because he knows that Ghanaians were appalled and are still appalled by that chemistry. But I am not going to dwell on that. I'll give President Akufo-Addo the benefit of the doubt and begin to ask the questions that we are all not asking. If you are a special prosecutor and the president has granted permission to a minister to travel or a former appointee, what prevents you? Did you write a letter to the president telling the president that, look, don't allow Ken to travel because we are having an investigation? You did not. So you cannot now be claiming that you did not do anything because he's the president's cousin. You should have written a letter. If the president has said no to the letter, we would have agreed with you. The decision to say no was based on the fact that they are related. Until that is done, you did absolutely nothing. Again, this is a special prosecutor who addressed the press and indicated to us that as a result of the ongoing investigations, they have been able to more or less save the nation in excess of 2.7 billion. That would have been lost as a result of the merged SML transactions. Mm-hmm. That was where their running battles with Manasseh started. Interestingly, Manasseh puts the figure around $500 million or more.
Well, we'll come
now the question is, where is the source of that $2.7 billion the special prosecutor made references to?
Well, they put out a document that details that. We'll get into it because
and just yesterday, their yearly review, they have gone back to the Manasseh figure. And they have said that it should be about $500 million, over $500 million, and $500 million. So I think around 5.13 billion Ghana cedis or so. Mm-hmm. So they have gone back to the Manasseh figure. Then we begin to ask the question, what actually is happening in that office and what informs even their public engagements? Alfred, these are critical questions we must ask. And for me, even the bit about presidential intervention dovetails into the relevance. Now, I have moved on from the occupants of that office. It dovetails into the relevance of that institution called special prosecutor. And that is why, once again, I agree with Sina Martin Kpebu in his petition, demanding his resignation or in the alternative, even doing away with the office altogether.
Reverend Apostle Abraham Lincoln Ladi, he presented. I only went to support.
Oh, okay,
my petition is coming. So far there are 16 petitions Mine will come and add the 17.
Interesting.
Yeah. 16 petitions for its removal. Yeah.
So you see, Alfred, you see, so it dovetails into the relevance of us continuing to keep that office. And let me do that briefly. I think it was established somewhere in 2018 or 2019. And the bedrock, 2018. Yes, 2018. And the bedrock of its formation was about independence. Now we had Martin Alamisi Amidu, a senior comrade who was appointed as the first special prosecutor. In less than a year or so in office, he came out to tell all of us. I remember that year, that was during the 2020 elections. Yeah. We were around the Karga constituency with His Excellency President Mahama when the news broke of his resignation. And he told all of us that he had decided to resign because he was convinced that His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo then was attempting to interfere with his independence. And that he was convinced that Nana Addo actually is the mother serpent of corruption as far as the Ghanaian democratic dispensation is concerned. And said bye to us. He also enumerated difficulties that were deliberately placed on his way that made it very difficult to work as an independent office. Now, today, Kisi is also telling us the same thing. He also says that, look, other state institutions are not cooperating. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo made it practically impossible for him to be independent. Then it brings us to the question that is that office truly independent and is it necessary? These are the questions we should ask. Is it truly independent and is it really necessary, Alfred? Because you see, for me, if I look at the composition and the stature of that office in our politics today, I feel that the office is more obstructive to our quest for accountability rather than helping the fight. For example, the SML case. Now the Attorney General's office, their hands will be tied. They cannot be seen dealing with the same case because the Office of Special Prosecutor is already dealing with it. Meanwhile, issues of political accountability will be on the doorstep of the Attorney General. Ghanaians are demanding accountability from him. So I do not think in the first place that the office was relevant. Secondly, it's been more than 5 years since its establishment. It is only proper that we take stock and begin to assess whether indeed it is an office we should still continue to have and continue to fund using our limited resources as a country. Especially when it is clear that it is rather obstructive to the fight against corruption.
But Mensano, would you say this office is obstructing the fight against corruption based on what they themselves have put out over the period? And this I ask because of the references that Hamza, Martin Pebu, and then also Solomon make, that if you are unable to exercise your functions because of the position that a president takes about a particular individual, which then prevents you from doing what you have to do, then how much of an impact would you have in the fight against corruption? Because essentially, nobody is supposed to stop you from doing your work.
Well, yes, very absolutely important points that have been raised. Let me take a step back and start by saying that I think we are all very keen that Ken Ofori-Atta comes to answer questions. And there was an earlier comment which seemed to suggest that I was trivializing that. That was never my point. I think I just didn't want to continue on the trajectory of the debate between Martin and the OSP. Yeah. I mean, these are persons I know. I didn't want to continue that trajectory. But Ken must come back and answer. And all of us are very, very, very keen about that. I think that it is also important to remember how this office was set up. In the initial days when a few of us, I mean, apart from working on Act 959, because we looked at the situation where very few high-profile persons, at a point where there was a lot of impunity, were being held accountable. And so we thought that the separation between the Minister of Justice, Attorney General, having somebody who is not so tied up with the government of the day that the person is uninclined to follow up where there are issues that affect appointees. And let's not forget that there are a number of cases, including the one about the plane, where it's a government, is it Agent 1 or so, that these are high-profile cases that
Government
have been
Official 1.
Ghana Government Official 1, that have been handled during the period of this, apart from the Cecilia Dapa and other cases. It seems to me that our expectations of that office have been high from the first day. A number of us visited in the first year when Mr. Martin Alamasi Ben Kaiser Midu was there. There were only 3 seconded staff, himself and his deputy. And we even were part of the team that went in looking at the building that they were going to be assigned around GIJ. About a year and a half later, the place was run down, almost broken. To all extents and purposes, it took till, I think, about 2023 before they had a building worth talking about, and to the end of, I think, last quarter 2023, before then they had permission to then recruit, I think, about 200 staff. 249. So to all extents and purposes, it's from the year 2024 that we could say that this office has been properly established. The individuals that have been put at the helm of affairs, Citizen Vigilante was my number 1. Anytime I was like, yeah, that's Martin. When he suddenly said that he was going to exit, and the reasons he gave, some seemed to tie to the previous president and how people would stand for corruption and all, I was hugely disappointed. But there's a sense in which I think until that office has gotten to the point where, in terms of its ability to work with the courts and other agencies and to deliver, the occupant of the office understands that they have the protections, they have the capacity to do what the law has mandated them to do without fear or favor, we still may have some issues. And so these are relevant questions. I think that institution building doesn't happen overnight. And perhaps because it is work in progress, we are seeing some gaps that could be addressed. I've listened to my compatriots, and in some of the instances, I have difficulty because in following the chronology, I understand that the office was just trying to do the best they can. If I take Ken being expected on the 2nd of June, and he didn't appear, and then they wrote to the chief of staff to put out the red alert, red notice. On the 13th of June, they raid SML offices and discover additional information that makes them think, we can make our case stronger. And then subsequent to the 13th or so, the AG now writes saying, can you give us names of people to join our team, as well as give us the docket to work on. And then the SP responds saying that, a few days ago, we raided SML. We've uncovered more information that will make our charges stronger, etc., etc. Therefore, the names of the people to join you are A and B. But with regard to the docket, we need to do some more work because we believe we can make this a stronger case when we are filing it. I clearly, in my mind, in understanding the issues, think that the office is doing its best. I think that it is fair to demand more. I think it is fair to raise issues where we think that the occupant has made statements that may not be factual. But at the same time, I think that we should remember that this is an institution that is still being built. It hasn't reached its zenith, unlike many other of its compatriots that have existed over a long period. Really, they have been there, let's say, for 2024, 2025, probably in real essence about 3 years. A good time for a review to see what else can be done, because in my view, we still need an independent special prosecutor who can take up issues of this nature.
I see. Now, Manasseh, I'm going to come to you, but I just need a quick response from you, Martin Kpebu. There's a question from one of our viewers. Dr. Kwame Asante says, with the special prosecutor going to court with these 78 charges, in the absence of Ken Ofori-Atta, does this not amount to the trial in absentia that he had been not considering, or he had not been considering all the while? I think that's what you wanted to say.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
you remember lawyer Thaddeus Osori was one of the first when this matter came up about ending of January. Thaddeus Osori was clear in his mind. Let's go for trial in absentia. Then later, a number of us joined. But they kept stalling. That's why I said, as they kept stalling, and you remember last week I mentioned to you that then I got credible information that Ofori-Atta is trying to get a permanent residence card in the US. So people are entitled to read in between the lines. Was Kissi Agyabin stalling to give Ofori-Atta more time to be able to get a permanent residence card? Because it doesn't make sense. You see Manasseh's investigations. Kissi Agyabin didn't start the investigations the whole of 2024. You see the email Manasseh brought. It shows that they started 2025. And you know, when we went to the oral committee, we got evidence, and I mentioned it here earlier in the year, that he was suppressing the cases. So the cases that will make MPP bad, he was suppressing them. Look, it's not only this SML matter that would involve Ken Ofori-Atta and Esakori. The Kingsley, former executive secretary of the scholarship secretary. Yeah, he suppressed it so that Kingsley could go through elections and beat Atachia. He suppressed it. It's a matter in court now, and it's one of the grounds we'll be using for his removal. Right?
I wanted a quick response from you so that Manasseh will have to leave us. So I have to just conclude the point with Manasseh, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Manasseh, on this $2.7 billion, because this was an issue that came up within the week when the special prosecutor responded to a post you had put out earlier. They gave now, subsequently, a breakdown of this $2.7 billion after you also raised a challenge that there is really no document that details this $2.7 billion that it says it has saved from this SML deal. I'm going to put the response of the Special Prosecutor's Office on the screen, right? And whether it answers the question of the source that you were talking about. This is it. They say, following the earlier announcement that Ghana saved over $1.2 billion from the cancellation of the main SML revenue assurance contract, there is an additional savings from the upstream and mineral sector components of the agreement. These contracts, which were based on a variable fee structure linked to exports of crude oil and gold, would have cost the state approximately $173 million. For crude oil, $2.6 billion for gold exports over 5 years. SML did not work as the arrangement coincided with the KPMG audit. Owing to the criminal investigation by the Office of Special Prosecutor and the subsequent cancellation by the President, Ghana has now avoided these further costs. Estimated export per month, and then crude and gold, they break it down, compensation due to service provider, compensation payable per month, and then compensation payable per year, all totaling almost $2.7 billion. And I said, that's what the special prosecutor put out to answer the question about where they were getting that $2.7 billion from, as against your $500 million that you were asking for. Does he answer the question for you? Manasseh.
Alfred, if you look at that figure, it says 2.6, let's say 2.6.
2,626,354,864 Ghana cedis. Yes.
The figure I contested from the OSP said $2.7 billion. That is about 30 billion Ghana cedis. So the question we should be asking the OSP is, how can we now move from $2.7 billion or 30 billion cedis to 2.6 billion cedis? I think the honorable thing for the office to do is just to apologize to the people of Ghana that we put out a figure that said this contract sum was $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion is 30 billion Ghana cedis. I tried to engage them privately. They argued, and I had to put this out and put evidence backing the claim that this contract was worth about a little over $500 million for the entire duration. Akufo-Addo's administration, led by the president, asked KPMG to do the audit. The external price verification and the transaction audit components were cancelled after the KPMG report. The upstream and downstream did not take effect. At the time the OSP finished its investigation, the only payment that was being made to SML was the downstream audit contract, which amounts to $1.6 million a year. So even if we had to take the $500 million, by the time the OSP investigation ended, 2 components had been cancelled, some had been suspended, and this is how much we're paying, $1.6 million to SML in a month. So what you have read and put out there only confirms what I said, that the OSP peddled falsehood when it said it saved Ghana $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion is equivalent to 30 billion Ghana cedis. Now they put a figure there, what you've read, that talks about 2.6 billion cedis. 2.6 billion cedis is not the same as 2.6 billion, 30 billion cedis. And I just want to draw your panelists' attention to something very important. And I want to disagree with those who are thinking that these issues are trivial. Let us just allow everything to pass. In the fight against corruption, the character and integrity of the fighter or the institution are as important as competence. The credibility in that institution is very key. The Fourth Estate petitioned the OSP in 2024. It wanted to publish the National Service investigation, and then people went to court to place an injunction on it. So even before publishing, the Fourth Estate petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate. We go to 2025, a new administration comes, there is oral. And the Fourth Estate takes that same petition to oral. And oral has acted, the Attorney General and Yoko have acted on the National Service investigation very swiftly, and we are seeing what is coming out of that. I'm not looking at the substance. Why would someone take a petition from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which is independent, which is not political, and take it to the very institutions that we felt were not adequately equipped or empowered or independent to fight corruption? It talks about some loss of trust and loss of credibility in that office. And I know people who are so disappointed, not because they are politicians, but because they have serious issues. This Ken Ofori-Atta matter we are all talking about, one point we are forgetting is all of this controversy would not have arisen had the Office of the Special Prosecutor proceeded to begin the investigation in 2023 December, when Evans Aziamo Mensah, Adwoa Adubiah-Owusu, and I petitioned that office. Alfred, I'm saying to all Ghanaians, and there is evidence to this effect, that the Office of the Special Prosecutor did not start the SML investigation in 2023. The whole of 2024, the Office of the Special Prosecutor did not start the SML investigation. It only started the SML investigation in 2025, January 29, 2025, by which time Ernest Akori had left, by which time Ken Ofori-Atta had left the country. So in all this discussion, the question is, on what basis would anybody have stopped Ken Ofori-Atta or Ernest Akori when the OSP had not started the investigation? Let me tell you, I have cited the diary of entries of the SML investigation. This is an OSP document. When they are doing the investigation, there's a diary that records what happens. That diary, the first entry on the SML investigation, page 1, is dated 29th January 2025. And the time is 12:40 p.m.
I see.
That was when the first entry, it is titled Diary of Action Taken.
The diary of actions taken.
OSP. Yes.
And you said this is a document you got from the Special Prosecutor's Office?
I am unable to tell you how I got it,
Okay.
but this is from the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Okay, we have a copy of it. Let me state, is this what you're talking about? We're going to put that on the screen right now. This diary of action is exclusive to Key Point this morning, and put
Yes.
it on record that
That may be what I'm
this is
talking
the
about.
document. This is the diary of action you talk about. 29th, 12:40 p.m., 29th of
January
2025.
2025. That is when the first entry on the SML matter was made. And you can see the summary of the case. Then you come to the next date, which is 30th January. There is something like Team A. And I just want to read that part because it is short. Please proceed with the preliminary investigation needs and prepare an investigation plan and identify the persons of interest we will need to interview. And there's a word that I cannot I cannot read because, and something departments and appropriate departments and agencies to provide information. This is 30th January 2025. And it says proceed with the preliminary investigation. But let me go back to the KSM interview. In that interview, this is what Kisi Ajabin said. We started our investigation in December 2023. By the end of December, we had a clear path of where we were going. The law says do not intrude too much into the lives of people and corporate entities during the preliminary stage. So at that stage, we don't go arresting people. We are quietly looking and questioning people. We only started calling in people in January 2025. And the final quote I want to bring from that interview is, we have been doing this the whole of 2024. So we started in December 2023. By the ending of January 2024, we knew what we were sitting on, what we had. That's why in January 2025, we started inviting our primary suspects in. I said in my write-up that the Office of the Special Prosecutor only reached out to me on the 29th of January. Then we had our first meeting on the 31st of January. And that meeting, what they said was that they wanted to understand the case. And on the 5th of February, they sent an email, and that email said that they needed some information for the preparatory processes towards the investigation. I put that email out. But if people are even doubting the writer of that email, which the OSP has not denied, they should look at the entry of the diary of this investigation on the 3rd of February 2025. There is a submission there. And part of it said on 29th January 2025, the team reached out, led by DSO, there's a name there, reached out to Manasseh Azuri Awuni, one of the petitioners, in this case on his cell phone number. My cell phone number is quoted there, and this is accurate. So 29th, they reached out to me, and then on the 5th of February, they interviewed me and they needed information to start. Then you see another entry on the 3rd of February, and after our meeting, that's my meeting with them, it is also entered in the diary. The point I'm making is this: the Office of the Special Prosecutor did not start this investigation until Ken Ofori-Atta left. The Office of the Special Prosecutor did not start this investigation until Ernest Akore left. And I expected this office, which had all this period, told me in private conversations that they didn't want to, they were waiting for the government to change before they start the investigation, suddenly comes out to say that we started this investigation long time ago. So I have provided the evidence, the emails they sent to me saying that they were now beginning to start the investigation, and their own diary of entry of the SML case. The point I am driving at is this: when we have an office such as the OSP, I am one of those who believed and still believe that we need an independent office. It is not so much about the office, but how we make it work. And it is about time we stop blaming the politicians all the time. It is true, it is a new office that is facing challenges. In 2021, the Media Foundation for West Africa got myself and then a few other young people to start the Fourth Estate. It was the first of its kind, an independent investigative journalism newsroom. None of the people we had done investigations before. Were about only 6. 4 or so of them had just come out of journalism school. But everybody in this country can attest to the work the Fourth Estate has done over the period. So there are challenges, but we should not just be giving excuses. The office is called the Office of the Special Prosecutor, not the Office of the Special Excuses. So we should appreciate the problems, but we should also demand accountability, as Edem Sananu said. That accountability from leadership should not only come from political leadership. Anybody who occupies, including people in the private sector, should be accountable to this the nation. If the special prosecutor comes out to give an impression that everything was supposed to be done and they were helpless because they didn't get cooperation, and we find out that is not true, they must be held accountable. If the Office of the Special Prosecutor comes out to say that they had saved 2.5 $7 billion or 30 billion Ghana cedis, and we challenge them with evidence, which they should have, and it is proven to be false, then we should demand accountability. If the office of the special prosecutor and the special prosecutor himself goes on television and tells the entire country that the investigation on SML started on or in December 2023, and now there is evidence that they did nothing in 2023, did nothing in 2024, and only started the investigation in 2025, February, after Ken Ofori-Atta had left the country. I think it is fair that we put these matters in perspective. Sami Darko, who is the Director of Strategy and Communications, released a rebuttal to my initial point about the delay in the investigation, stating that the OSP had done this investigation and the evidence is in the reports that the OSP issued over the years. Now, I have put evidence of these people writing to me that they were beginning the investigation in 2025, and their own diary of the events show that the investigation started in 2025. What this means is that the reports that we read from the OSP telling us previously that they were investigating when they hadn't started, that reports are not true. And these are serious matters coming from an institution that should be regarded with so much integrity. And I don't think that we should decouple all of these things from some of the challenges that come out of that office. Every year, they are given a budget to do these things. So if you have a budget to fight corruption and in reporting how you use the money, you said, okay, part of the money was used to investigate SML. And then we are now told SML was not investigated at all. I think these are matters that we should interrogate and shouldn't make it look like some of us who are raising these questions have any problems with that office. I have been one of the staunchest supporters of the OSP. Look at the write-ups I've done in the past. But when some of these things started coming out and I knew that, oh, these things were false, and I even tried to engage some of them behind the scenes, they were not listening. It is only fair that as a journalist, when the PPA and the Ejinin Boatie claimed they had saved billions of cedis, I went after them and realized it was false. Civil society groups even wrote and demanded evidence of that, and the finance ministry and the PPA didn't give. I think Edem Senano would know this. When SML claimed that it has saved 3 billion cedis, I went after them, and then it turned out to be false. The office that is supposed to embody integrity is claiming that it saved $2.9 billion. And $2.9 billion is 30 billion Ghana cedis. It has turned out to be false. If you look at their own thing you projected now, these are questions we should ask. And when people have trust issues with an institution, it is not because they hate that institution. When we are asking for accountability, it is not because we hate the institution. We must sometimes be fair to the politicians.
Right.
Akufo-Addo, President Akufo-Addo, knew the caliber of Martin Amidu before he put him in that office. So at least I trust the intention of Akufo-Addo in the setting of the office. I also know that President Akufo-Addo's intervention, even though it was half-hearted, saved the nation close to $200 million that would have been paid to SML, because the upstream and mineral sectors were suspended, they never took off, and that was the chunk that were paying close to $80-something million a year. Then the price verification and transaction audit contracts were terminated. So if I am a journalist who knows all of these, and I'm sitting down and watching somebody who slept on the job, and there's evidence that the office slept on the job, it's not an opinion, this is evidence. It is only fair for me to come out and say, these are the facts.
Okay.
I have commended the OSP for the investigation they have done on the SML. And I will commend the OSP. The facts and evidence they have is one thing, and getting the right charges and prosecuting the case is another thing. If they are able to prosecute this case and get monies back and we get convictions, I will be one of the loudest cheerleaders of that office. But until then, we need to police them. There are many other things that are not looking good. I have given them some time to explain to me others, and they've said, okay, wait, we'll come to you with explanation. So I'm not going to put all of those things out.
Okay.
But there are serious issues. And I just want to also end by saying that from where I sit, Ken Ofori-Atta's coming back into Ghana may be hampered.
Why?
I'm saying this because there seems to be a very serious rift between the office of the special prosecutor and that of the Attorney General.
No, they said they don't have any rift. They are cooperating well, and
they are not. Make your independent investigation. Don't take my word. They are not. Those two offices have a serious challenge. People who know this, within government, they know. Within OSP, they know. Within the Attorney General Department, they know. What comes out in the public is just for the cameras. But there are serious, serious challenges, almost irreconcilable.
Well, this is contrary to what the Office of Special Prosecutor itself has put out. That was just a storm in the teacup, nothing to worry about. They are cooperating now. In fact, the Attorney General's office is working on the documentation and everything, the processes to extradite Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana. And you say you have information that you can stand on to prove that this is not the case. The two offices are not cooperating, as we are told.
There is a rift between the two offices.
I see.
And I hope that if there's a mediation, if the office of the president or some bigger bodies is able to call these people together and say, look, you have your differences, but we have a national interest. Let's work together.
Okay.
I don't think that if the relationship were as smooth as they make it look publicly, somebody would come out to say, bring us a docket, and we are not receiving the docket. Sometimes you don't need the entire docket to start some of these processes.
All right.
Or you don't need to be, in court before you can sit down with these people and say, look, these are the pieces of evidence we have, and this is strong for us to get. So what I'm saying is that the two offices have a challenge with cooperation. If they resolved that last night, I may not know. But make your independent checks with sources in the Attorney General and the OSP.
Right.
And some top people in this NDC administration. And I fear that may sabotage the national interest. But above all, I stand for accountability from those who lead us to seek accountability from others. For the anti-corruption crusade or fight demands integrity. And when we see that deficit in any institution, we should not just say, because we support the fight against corruption, because we all want Ken Ofori-Atta back, or because we think the previous government didn't do well, we should just close our eyes and then blindly give our loyalty to somebody. It is the interest of the state that we should seek.
Thank you.
And that is why some of these facts are necessary to be put out there to help the discourse.
Thank you very much, Manasseh Azure-Awene. Thank you for this. In fact, there are quite a number of your messages. And while we round up on this, Solomon Owusu says this is to you, and then it mentions Martin Kpebu as well. It is inconceivable to blame the special prosecutor for allowing Ken Ofori-Atta to travel outside the country on health grounds, more so when Akufo-Addo was still the president. Asking for Ken Ofori-Atta to stop traveling is asking President Akufo-Addo not to travel. Ken Ofori-Atta was the co-president of Ghana. Let us not pretend and blame the special prosecutor. In fairness, the only person benefiting from the feud between Senior Martin Kpebu and Special Prosecutor Kessie Agyabeng is Ken Ofori-Atta. Any disagreement benefits Ken Ofori-Atta. The Honorable Victor Selome was permitted to travel outside for medical treatment. He traveled and came back to allow for investigation. The problem is Ken Ofori-Atta and not Kessie Agyabeng. From 1992, every single finance minister has stayed in the country for the purpose of regime accountability. Richard Kwame Pepra, Yaw Safo Mafo, Seth Terkper. Why is Ken Ofori-Atta running away? He should man up, since he held that office the longest by any finance minister since 1992. Thank you very much.
I mean, the point is, I don't know for a fact that Ken Ofori-Atta was the president.
It says a co-president.
There is no co-presidency in this country. I know that President Akufo-Addo was the president, and that what we are discussing still comes back to the OSP. Yeah. He must go for him.
Okay.
You understand? He must allow processes. We are not saying that by virtue of discussing this, it means Ken Ofori-Atta must go. I made it in my earlier submission that the focus must be on Ken Ofori-Atta. I care less about whatever English the OSP is using. What I care about is that our money is missing.
Okay.
And it is with Ken Ofori-Atta. Whatever he is making, he must come back.
You have to prove that it is with him.
Oh, the money is with him. That's why he has run away.
Well, you say that's why it's in court. He has to prove that.
But if you have run away,
unless you know that it's with him.
Oh, the money is with him.
You know.
If it's not with you, should come and prove that it's not with him.
You know, because I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know about the 97 million is with him. Who authorized the disbursement of all these monies? You see, let him come. And those that are saying that we can try him upstairs, yeah, we can do that. But at the end, if we try him upstairs and he's still sitting there with our money, what would you have done? So any processes that could trigger him to come down, we must all go after that. But what we are doing is just to allow him to secure. I had the intel earlier, and I put it up on your network that this man was busily chasing for a U.S. passport.
Well, Niama Amatefio says, good morning. Please, can you ask Hamza Swing, who is today waxing lyrical about the incompetence of the OSP and the needless call to sack the special prosecutor? In his view, he says, what was his position of the same Kessie Agyabeng when he investigated the political airbag scandal and exonerated candidate John Mahama, knowing how the former administration needed to use that outcome of the investigation to smear candidate John Mahama? Yes. Hamza, quick one.
Alfred, you see, that has always been the problem with many of our social commentators, especially as a country. And those who have been following my commentary on this matter, I think that I've been pretty much consistent. Even prior to the 2016 election, when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo made promises to the effect that he was going to establish the Special Prosecutor's Office, I was clear that that office was needless and there was no need for us to have such an office, regardless of the kind of work even they did in relation to the airbag scandal. We were clear, even as a party, that we did not need the special prosecutor to say that President Mahama was engaged in many of these things. In any case, it was also a presidential directive to the special prosecutor, who ought to have been independent, to investigate. And he proceeded to investigate and found out that there was nothing untoward as far as those transactions are concerned. That did not make the relevance of the office, as far as the NDC is concerned, to have changed. No.
Good morning to you, Alfred. It says, tell lawyer Martin Kpebu that his kind is rare, beg your pardon. Solomon Owusu hit the nail right on. Kise Jabing, he says, has questions, he says, to answer. We all need him to work, and that's why these issues are coming up. In my view, he should rather be strengthened and giving the needed support to help him, he says, achieve the needed expectations of him. You say, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, good morning. Thank you very much for your message. Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo says, firstly, I'm not interested in having a long discussion on this, it says, a long discourse with my post. The issue between Ofori-Atta and the state. It appears to me that most of the panelists, it says, have no idea what happened 46 years ago in this country. It says, the Ken Ofori-Atta left the shores of this country on the 4th of January, 2025, under the then Chief Justice. I kindly plead with the OSP to stop this and belittling, said the intelligence of Ghanaians. It appears to me that the political class has not learned its lessons. I humbly appeal to the President John Mahama to keep his ears on the ground and follow carefully what is happening with regards to OSP, SML, and Ken Ofori-Atta. The masses, it says, are against it. I am deeply worried about the security situation in this country. Thank you. Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo sends us this message. This is Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7 and also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279, the Voice of London Radio in the heart of the City of London, and Voice of London Television as well. If you see this water on the table, it's just because we're urging you to drink water that is sourced from the right source and then also purified without any chemicals and addition. And I'm talking about the UGL Premier Fresh. Hydrates, refreshes, and thrives with a pure process of purification. UGL Premier Fresh comes in three main domains. We have the one for your dispenser, and then you have also this bottle that you've seen on the table for some time now. And then you can also go to their depot. It's at the University of Ghana, Lehman Hall. Get there and get this and many others that they have for you in different packages. UGL Premier Fresh Mineral Water. That is what we're talking to you about. You can call them on these two numbers and get some more details beyond you going to their depot at the Lehman Hall, University of Ghana, Legon. These two numbers are going to be on your screen: 0561 814444, 0561 814444, or 055 060 150, 055 060 150 for some more details. And this festive season, there's one offer for you between the 23rd to the 27th of December. Ocean Bells Travels and Tours is giving you an exclusive package holiday to Dubai coming up between the 23rd and the 27th. 4 nights of unforgettable celebrations, half-day Dubai City tour on sharing transfer, Marindo cruise with buffet dinner and live entertainment on sharing, and also UAE tourist visa. They have partnerships with Emirates, Qatar, Brussels, Turkish, Ethiopia Airlines, Askai, Egypt Air, TAP, Portugal, South Africa Airways, Kenya Airways, Royal Air Maroc, Africa World Airlines, and Air Peace Airlines as well. As you're watching us now, if you go on Google Play Store or the App Store, you download the Ocean Bells app. To buy your tickets from there, you get a 10% discount exclusive to just those of you watching us on Key Point right now. And you can call them on these two numbers for some more details. That is 059 397 2767, 059 397 2767, or 030 8040 104, 030 8040 104. Now, do you suspect you didn't get the right amount of fuel, or you have issues about quality of fuel that you buy, or you experience bad customer service at the fuel station? The National Petroleum Authority is here to assist you. Call them with your concerns on 0302 550 380, 0302 550 380 if you experience any of these issues at the fuel station. Call them within 48 hours after experiencing that. And NPA, where customer care meets excellence. And if you have financial challenges with any financial institution that you are with, I'm giving you a better option. I'm talking about Blue Financial Services Ghana Limited. Are you a salaried worker, an SME owner, or a trader in need of quick and reliable financial support? It's time to make your money work for you. With Blue Loans from Blue Financial Services Ghana Limited, you get fast, flexible, and affordable financing tailored to your needs. No long queues, no stress, just the support you deserve when you need it. I'm talking about Blue Financial Services Limited. A number of you also sending me messages about my outfit this morning. As always, I'm clothed by Kogra Clothing. It's the best version of you. You can call them on this number, that's 0244-238-341 for this outfit and many others. 0244-238-341. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Kofi Asare, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, is joining us, and then we'll also have a representative of the Zango Development Institute also joining us this morning to have a conversation about Wesley Girls Matter and the diversity in our schools. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. we are having to deal with this Wesley Girls Senior High School matter because of the Attorney General's response earlier in the week. But this matter started as far back as 2024, in the last quarter of 2024, when Shafiq Osman took this matter to court. Well, a number of reliefs that he was seeking. The Education Minister, Haruna Iddrisu, has also spoken on this matter this week. Wesley Girls Senior High School is owned by the Methodist Church and not the state. This is the Attorney General's response. He says that Wesley Girls has the right to practice its religion. It's entitled to government funding even as a religious body. And state cannot take away the religious rights from the Wesley Girls Senior High School on the basis that it receives funds from the state. But this is what Haruna Iddrisu, the Education Minister, said in Parliament earlier in the week on this matter. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, let me also use this opportunity in debating the budget, since I speak as the present Minister for Education, that there is some ongoing debate on restrictions on Muslim students in Wesley Girls, which conflicts with international human rights standards and even standard expected of us in Ghana's Constitution and Article 33(5) and 26(1) of the Constitution. And then to assure our colleagues that we have a duty to uphold the rights of every Ghanaian child and to uphold the rights of every Ghanaian citizen. No right is divisible, and that we will not countenance any action by any person to deny any Ghanaian girl the opportunity to profess or practice any religion. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude.
Well, so that's the Education Minister, Haruna Iddrisu, there. Let me bring in now, and in fact, acknowledge the presence of Kofi Asare, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, one of the foremost CSOs in the education sector in this country. Kofi, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Also, we have Abdul Hamid Osman also joining us. He is the Executive Director of the Zango Institute for Development. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Perfect. Now, I mean, Kofi, I'll start off with you. This matter has come up in different forms in the past. It's either, to do with student, Rastafarianism, or girls in senior high schools being prevented from wearing hijab. How is it that we haven't gotten a hold on this matter that keeps coming up in different forms? Now we have to ask a question of law at the Supreme Court on this.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of not having gotten hold of, the matter or bringing it under control or complete control, but it's very much an issue of society and how relationships, conducts are not static. In the same way as expectations are not static.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not, and again, it's not to create a situation that there is chaos or there is pandemonium in the observance of parallel religious rights in schools that are owned by missions. It is not the case. Let me indicate that majority of our schools are owned by missions. The largest, owned by the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church owns over 5,000 schools. About 20% of schools in the basic school sector is owned by the Catholic Church alone. And then about 12% of schools in the secondary school sector also owned by them. So it gives you an idea about, and in all these schools, they allow, for parallel religious practices to take place. And so it is not the case that there's a crisis.
Mm.
Indeed, in the senior high schools, there's only one senior high school I know. Let me say, in our secondary schools, okay, there's only one secondary school I know that has issues with allowing Muslims to practice their religion or manifest their faith, especially within the context of prayers and fasting. There's only one school.
Which is?
Of all the schools owned by the Catholics, the Anglicans, the Methodists, Presby, and other faiths, I don't know of any school that has this challenge. And so it is the case that 99.9% of our Christian mission schools have actually acceded to the dictates of the MOU, which provides for inclusion, you know, in the observance of, you know, faiths. And so I want that context to be made.
That's right.
And to the extent that
So
we always...
This is not a widespread situation.
Exactly.
It's specific to a particular school.
So as we discuss the case before the Supreme Court, we should appreciate that it is an effort by a citizen to seek interpretation, okay, to how certain provisions in the Constitution is manifesting in a particular school. But it is not the case that the tolerance or the level of acceptance of Christian missions for Muslim religion is low or is under threat. No.
I see. Well, but Hamza, do we risk this tolerance that Kofi talks about actually also being brought to question if this matter is determined in court? Because then that will become a precedent. Absolutely. It will become a reference to all the other senior high schools who are even tolerating and, in fact, having this kind of diversity being allowed in the schools.
I think that we don't risk damaging the tolerance that we've been enjoying as people. And you see, Alfred, first of all, everywhere, not just in Ghana or Africa, the issue of religion and ethnicity are difficult conversations to have. Difficult conversations because the tendency for the conversations to privilege what I refer to as conflict or segregational attributes over and beyond that of harmony and coexistence is very high. And so that point needs to be made. And even in established democracies in the Western world, they still baffle with the inherently conflictual and segregational nature of religious and ethnic discourse when it comes to cultural identity. So it's not peculiar to us as a people, as far as our developmental trajectory is concerned. Again, the danger has to do with how those of us who comment on it run the commentary based on the two extremes, because every religious side has extremists. There are many of us who run commentary because we want to appeal to our religious sect, especially in relation to this particular case, not because we are actually concerned in finding solutions to it. And that is where the danger is, because it is always about the obsession to trend and be seen by your sect as propagating their views or championing their cause. And that is why from day one, Alfred, I have maintained, I'm part of the Council for Shafiq. And that is why I have said that we should stop looking at this matter as a contest between Christianity and Islam in Wesley Girls Secondary School. We should begin seeing it as another constitutional test under the 1992 Constitution, and whether or not people would be able to enforce their rights or not. Okay. If we take it to that level, we would succeed in toning down the sensationalism and emotional commentary that mostly drives religious and ethnic commentary. And so it is key. When Shafiq decided to go to court, he did not go to court he did not invoke religious teachings or Islamic doctrines. He invoked constitutional provisions. That is the 1992 Constitution. Okay. And so even if the outcome is determined, it will not be a victory either for Christianity or Islam. It will be a victory for the 1992 Constitution. That's one. And let me give you this important... Yes, in a minute. Yes, Alfred, you see, there are three claims that have come out in this matter, and that we need to be careful. The first claim is that the fact that the Attorney General, in his statement of case, on behalf of the second and third defendants on the matter, seem to be arguing that, look, it is a mission school and not really public. And also, they have the right to practice their religion. It gives the impression as though the Attorney General is taking a position, especially those extremists who are commenting on it, is taking a position against Muslims. We are in court, and I don't think that that's the impression.
Okay.
What the Attorney General has simply done is given the entire nation the opportunity to begin to raise issues that the Tyrone Maguire failed to address. Because in the issue of Achimota and Tyrone Maguire, we're not dealing with mission schools. We're dealing with what we all agree to be a public institution. Now, there are many who feel like Wesley Girls is a mission school and assisted, and it doesn't make it a public institution. The Attorney General is simply telling the court that, is that a public institution or not? And the Attorney General is also saying that, look, even if it is, I respect the rights of Muslim students to practice their religion. I also respect the rights of Wesley Girls as a Christian school to also enforce their teachings. It is now left onto, and so I don't want to interfere in any of these rights. It is now left onto the court to make a determination as to whether indeed the measure of restriction is one that is allowed under our law. And so we must be careful. Even those of us who are speaking for Wesley Girls to be for Muslims to be given an opportunity to practice their religion and Wesley Girls, we must be careful. Then second claim, which is important, Alfred, I must apologize. The second claim, to the effect that, and I've listened to many of our commentators say it, that, Wesley Girls it is at that posture because it succeeded in maintaining its traditions and didn't allow it to be watered down. And so, why are Muslim students coming there or allowing them to practice has the effect of maybe watering down its principles? You see, one point we are missing is that even the decision of Muslims to want to go there is a manifestation of the kind of respect they have for the Christian teachings that underpinned that religion.
Thank you.
Now, I beg you,
I'll come to that the next one. But you see, this has been coming up in different forms. That's why it actually even gave rise to the MOU that Kofi referenced. It's binding. It's a memorandum of understanding. That should have been a guide, is it not, so as to avoid all of this. But we keep coming back to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is not a very simple issue because a few years back we had to dig, one of the groups I chair, Advocates for Christ, we needed to dig into the background. And we discovered that in the history of Wesley Girls, there had been a point where a number of girls, Christians, engaged in fasting, had some very serious health consequences, which ended up with the school being, parents and all that came up. So they took a decision because of a Christian act of fasting that no students will fast. So at the moment, even in Lent, it has nothing to do with whichever religious affiliation you have. They have that position that, listen, based on our historical records and what has transpired in our school, we don't allow this. So it's not complicated when you have, as it were, another religious group saying we want to fast. When they have said to their own constituents as Methodists, you can't fast even during Lent. It's not as simple as just the MOU. And I'm glad that, as Kofi pointed out, it's only basically one school where we seem to have this issue. I think that it's a matter of sitting down. Because of the sensitivities, I think you need to, I would rather the parties sit down and resolve it. Because any decision,
maybe an out-of-court settlement?
Honestly, I just think that it might become much more complicated because the sensitivities are high. We are entering our period of Christmas, where it's peace and goodwill to all men. And I think that we should keep the peace. I think that not understanding the nuances of the historical context could end up creating much more confusion and chaos than we are anticipating at this point.
Well, okay, now you are wearing the Advocates for Christ hat on this one. But Kofi, an out-of-court settlement, you think? I mean, just because there had already been some conversation prior to all of this, with even the MOU spelling out what should be the guidelines to addressing a situation like this?
I am not comfortable with what appears to be conflicting positions between the Attorney General and the Minister for Education.
Is there a conflict, you think?
it appears to be Attorney General's submission on the matter and the Minister of Education's submission in Parliament appear to be a bit conflicting. Now, I think that there's a void somewhere. I don't think that the solution to this lies in the court system.
Right.
Because how 99.9% of Christian mission schools have accommodated Muslim practice wasn't negotiated through the court system. You understand? And
Absolutely.
so I don't think that the solution to getting Wesley girls to accede to what all others have acceded to lies in the court system. I think that from 1851, when the Education Ordinance came into being, when the missions were fully in control of our schools and government was only funding, through to our first Education Act in 1961, all the way to now, the current 1049, there are provisions, and there's a provision in 1049 that requires that an MOU be developed to provide a framework for managing mission schools. We are in year 5 after the passage of that law. The MOU is still in the draft. It hasn't been adopted. That's supposed to be the mother MOU that would have provided the broad framework for such supporting MOUs as the one that was facilitated by the National Peace Council and the missions. You understand? And so if the GS and the Ministry of Education is able to prioritize and wrap up that particular mother MOU, which will flesh out the level of control that the state wishes to, cede to the missions in the majority of their schools, and etc. in what areas, then we can properly situate the Peace Council-led MOU into the broader government missions MOU.
Right.
So if we build consensus around the mother MOU and situate what we have now as an offshoot MOU into that, I think we can make more progress than expecting results to come from the courts. I believe that we can dialogue and build consensus and make more gains, consolidate same. My only worry is that the statement that was issued by the Christian Council and the Catholic bishops suggested that they are against the observance of parallel religious systems in our schools. And that flies in the face of the MOU. And I thought that that statement took us back because it questioned the very essence of the MOU because they signed the MOU. The statement that came from the group, including His Eminence, the Chief Imam, also, I think, was a bit too harsh. It didn't solve, it was more of, I don't see it as contributing to solving the problem. Because we've seen statements fly from Christian Council and Catholic bishops. Statements fly from Methodist. A new one has flown from Anglican. Okay, so we felt that, a statement emanating from, quote unquote, the minority group, in this case, the Muslim group.
And you use that advisedly.
Should have, that's the minority.
Yes, in the context.
Should have been a bit more, diplomatic. It was a bit, as we say, fire for fire. And so I think that the statement should cease. I think that it would be important for a higher authority to facilitate dialogue of all those who have issued statements. And I'll be happy if the president can step in at this point.
Abdul, so is it a path that you take? Dialogue, cease, all the firing of statements, essentially?
Obviously, if you look at the trajectory, this has been happening for some years now. Since 1997, the Ghana Muslim Students Association had to come out to release a statement. This is about almost 30 years with regards about discrimination in our schools. Fast forward, 2015, even the former minister, the late Dr. Mani Boama, he was then the Minister of Information. He also issued a statement condemning an action which was brought to his concern that Muslims were being prevented from praying in their schools and fasting. We went forward. 2021, the issue came up again. So if you look at the trajectory over the years, there has been calls to various departments or various institutions to address this issue within the scope of the schools. Ghana Muslim Students as an association, normally when there are issues like this, they go to the schools. I served as a GIMSA president when I was in Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas. That's a mission school. There we have the chance to pray. We even use the auditorium to organize Muslim programs.
But you also participated
we
in
participate.
the
We
Christian
don't miss, yes,
prayers
Wednesday
and all
Mass.
of that.
The Wednesday Mass, which is done monthly. We Muslims in Aquinas, when I was there, I was the president. Before I was the president 3 years, we go to the church, we sit throughout. Every single student who is a Muslim sits in the auditorium to observe the Mass. But when it's 1 o'clock, second break, we get the chance to go and pray. We've avoided flouting rules of the school.
Right.
If we go to other institutions, we follow
the
same.
same.
What these Wesley girls are asking is nothing than if you allow them to practice their own. You know, boarders on Sundays, their costume, when you are going to boarding school, the kind of things they ask you to bring, you come with the Sunday wear, the church service dress, they wear it. They all can go to church, they don't have a problem. But when you ask them to go to your church and then tell them not to practice their religion, which violates Article 12, which violates Article 17, then Article 21, it all violates.
But
all these
does the
aspects have been
solution for this
violation.
matter lie in the courts? That's where.
So that is the interpretation that Shafiq is seeking. And as my brother said, what Shafiq Mohammed and the team are looking for is to set a standard where everybody can look up to. Because tomorrow, if this is not addressed properly, the 2021 High Court on the Rastafarian issue in Achimota, it's there as a case point, but still we are having this issue in Wesley Girls. So the determination by the Supreme Court, after 14 days that they've been given to respond, would go a long way to help us achieve this purpose. So Muslims in general love Christians. Even it's our religion directs us to marry.
I don't think we even have to stretch the boundaries of this matter
like the
to
statement
the point
he made a statement that
Muslim Christian. I think we would be
the statements that are flying about
the boundaries of this.
Okay, I agree with you.
Let's keep it compact.
Yes, but if you look at the statements flying about, one is saying no, the other person is saying this way. So it's trying to create that entrenched position between two religions, and that is what we want to avoid.
Okay.
So that cordial relationship already there, and it's going to exist, and that is what is making us walk about freely and go to each other's programs, work at the same places. We love each other. We even marry each other.
Absolutely.
So that is the point I'm making.
Fantastic. Dr. Zato, on this.
You see, there's something, and I've just said Christian Muslim. My name is Jebunti. That name wasn't given to me in the church or in a mosque. I was born a traditionalist. That name, my father, they went to the soothsayer, revealed the name Jebunti to them.
I see.
They killed a dog, a sheep, a guinea fowl, and to sacrifice and give the name.
They killed a dog?
A dog.
You mean they sacrificed a dog?
Yeah, they sacrificed a dog, a sheep, a guinea fowl, and about 5 other fowls. We sat there then, they commanded, we chanted, and then they named me after Jebunti.
So the gods gave you the name?
The gods gave me the name.
What's the meaning of Jebunti?
Jebunti is the third male son named after the Jebuni god. And the Jebuni god was a warrior god that was used in the olden days, in the dark days. If you wanted to sacrifice Jebuni, you needed the head of a Gonja man, the president or a Kasana man to sacrifice Jebuni. That's why these days, I know what I'm saying. The president is a Gonja, you know, understand? We are or a Kasana man. Okay, I'll just say Gonja man, sorry. He knows, they know. And we needed a Gonja man. That's why my appellation is Nyuburi. So you want to say Nyuburi Dala, that means head cutter. Thank you. But I'm coming back to this point. You see, the problem we have is the suit. This suit is the biggest problem, is the biggest threat to what we have right now. I'm saying that's because of this. Look, quickly. The suit is appealing to our West fears and our West devils. This suit is not appealing to our better angels when it comes to managing this section. What the suit is doing is that everybody is running away to their extreme orthodoxies. And that is what he just said. If 99.9% of schools are doing it, and if we just have one case, that means that it can be managed. What the suit has been, now look at all the, all the messages being fired. Everybody's running to the orthodoxy.
So an out-of-court settlement?
Exactly. So look, quickly to solve this, remove that suit from the court, Let's sit at the brotherhood of love. Let's sit at the brotherhood of friendship. Let's sit there and John gets, because at all of this, one thing I'm realizing, if we are all looking for our religious purities, where is the interest of the kids? Where is the interest of the children that we are sending there? If we put their interest supreme, we will put aside these differences. If we prioritize that, we'll put it. But anything short of that, we are subjecting the children of this country, and it is not in our best interest to do that.
Thank you. Because you are one of the council, just limit quickly in a minute.
That has always been the problem. Doc, I do not have any problems with calls for dialogue as far as this particular issue is concerned. But I think that we need to follow the court case and understand that it is not driven by malice or hatred towards any religious sect. And that's why I said that if you look at many of the reliefs being sought, even the Muslims agree that the Christian values has shaped the school. They agree, it's not in contention. That is why you would see Muslim parents wanting their kids to go there. But if you give an impression that allowing Muslims to practice their activities will dilute these disciplinary measures, it raises the question as to whether indeed Islam as an institution too, and a religious body, whether indeed it is not a religion that prices also self in discipline. Because we believe strongly that this is a disciplinary religion as well. It teaches the kids how to be disciplined and respectful. And so there's the need for us to understand that.
Thank you.
And understand that these two schools can cohabit, at least they can live harmoniously together. We have lived harmoniously together for long. And finally, on the issue of the relevance of the suit, you see, while it may be one school, let us not be afraid of the laws of the Republic of Ghana.
Okay.
To the extent that people are invoking their constitutional right, let us not create an impression in this country that anybody who attempts to invoke his constitutional right would risk jeopardizing the sustainability or future of this country. That is not the reason why the Constitution was promulgated.
Thank you.
But I do not object to any cause for out-of-court settlement so that at least Wesley girls can. Because in truth, what is happening is the highest form of respect to Christian teaching and orthodoxy.
Thank you.
Because Muslims know that their teachings have value. That is why they want to.
Thank you. Who should lead that process?
They are only seeking to practice their religion. They are not saying restrict your practices as Christianity.
I think the president must intervene.
Or the National House of Chiefs.
Because the Peace Council has lost control over an MOU that it facilitated. Because they were the facilitators. But the way the key actors that signed the MOU are throwing, statements in the air, I think that we need to escalate the mediator beyond the Peace Council. And that's why I'm saying that the president must call the missions and then have a conversation. This is not about the case in court. Right. This is about the statement being issued. Secondly, we must expedite processes at the GS Council level to formalize the MOU, which not the MOU on religious tolerance, but the broader MOU for missions participation in the delivery of education. These two things must be, expedited. But I'm calling for calm. We don't want to hear any more statements. We don't want to see any more extremist statements being made. At this point, we can only make progress based on dialogue and consensus.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Alfred, and I truly appreciate you on this. Thank you very much. And I want to state as well that earlier, as we did briefly discuss the Kwandai Member of Parliament's issue, my guests considered the Speaker of Parliament had made a pronouncement on this for a 7-day period. Within the next week, we will see how this matter involving the Kwandai MP evolves. Then it will give us enough legs to have a wider conversation on it. I want to say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. You're with.
To you, Madam Sarah.